Chapter 1442. Every single person had a side that was true to their emotions and character. Regardless of whether they were good, bad, or special. After returning from Emperor Yan's hall, Lin Feng learned a lot of information and solved many of his doubts. However, the pressure on his shoulders only increased. As the Emperor of Hell, Holy Master Yun Chang knew a lot of secrets. The power that he held was much greater than he had imagined. It's no wonder that even though the Great Shaman-Demon War is so intense, the 9 great regions of the human race are only fighting on a small scale, Lin Feng said lightly. The 9 territories were not only huge, but there were also many martial artists. Most importantly, the terrain was flat and easy to find. It could be said that it was one of the easiest targets to attack. However, the martial artists of the human race were not that strong. If the demon race army attacked directly, the humans would be in big trouble. However, the demon race did not kill the humans. It was not because they were afraid of the witch race, nor was it because they were merciful. It was because of one person, the Emperor of Hell. The heavenly spirit always had a rather strong deterrent force, especially the Emperor of Hell. After all, he was the overlord of Yen Imperial City, one of the 3 imperial cities of Tianling. The demon race was not stupid. If it was not necessary, they would not provoke such a powerful person. To them, the disadvantages outweighed the advantages. The Emperor of Hell was already famous in Douling during the Second Great Witch Demon War. He is doing this for his deceased wife. Lin Feng sighed. In Emperor Yan's hall, Holy Master Yun Chang had casually told him about the past. His wife was a human martial artist. During the Second Great Witch Demon War, she died protecting the humans. The huge blow caused Holy Master Yun Chang to almost go crazy. He slaughtered the strong martial artists of the demon race like an Asura. In the end, he was heavily outnumbered and left with serious injuries. However, after 10 years, Holy Master Yun Chang appeared again. With 1 spear and 1 person, he killed hundreds of Holy King martial artists. Blood flowed like a river. He was invincible. Thus, Holy Master Yun Chang's name was established. Holy Master Yun Chang was one of the legends. The heavenly secret Holy Master was another legend. However, I did not expect the heavenly secret Holy Master to die. Lin Feng felt that it was a pity. He had always respected this kind of senior who did his best to fulfill his responsibilities. The difference between Heavenly Secret Saint Lord and Cloud's Pair Saint Lord was that Heavenly Secret Saint Lord was 100% human. Perhaps he didn't have a very strong talent, but he had the extraordinary talent of star divination. He had always been silently contributing to the human race. As for herself, she was saved by him. He was truly offering selflessly. Even the existence of the 100 Falls was to protect humanity, and he was willing to lose his freedom. Holy Masters, I will do my best to fulfill my promise to you. I will do my best to protect humanity. Lin Feng's eyes burned with determination. It wasn't forced at all. Instead, it was a kind of responsibility. It was for his family and for the blood that flowed through his body. He was now the mortal emperor. The heavenly spirit finally calmed down. This massive machine seemed to be isolated from the rest of the world, but it was also the lifeline of the Dou spirit world. No matter how intense the battle between the shamans and the demons was, it had nothing to do with the heavenly spirit. Whether it was the shamans or the demons, even if they used all their troops, they would not be able to take down the heavenly spirit. Of course, a loose power alliance like the heavenly spirit couldn't be integrated into one. The 8,000 neutral races were extremely complicated. Just the Yen Imperial City, the Underworld, and the Lulan Kingdom alone were already in chaos. There was constant fighting and scheming among them. In particular, Lin Feng's sudden rise was like adding a screw to the machine that was the heavenly spirit. Even if it was just a small screw, it broke the originally stable cycle of the heavenly spirit and turned it into a mess. First, it was the North Dragon Guard, then the East Vine Guard, and then the Underworld and the Lulan Kingdom. Now, Lin Feng and Lin Yun's names could be said to be unusually famous. In particular, Lin Yun had just succeeded as one of the 4 great leaders of the Underworld and killed the Lulan warrior Zi Manlu. He was even more famous for a while. Even the Emperor of the Lulan Kingdom and the Emperor of the Underworld had come out. However, the initiator of all this was now oblivious to what was happening outside. He left? Lin Feng sneered. Not really. He went to train, Thousand Love Emperor said with a smile. The 2 of them won't be in trouble, right? Lin Feng frowned slightly. There was a hint of worry in his eyes. In just a short 7 days, he did not expect to hear such news as soon as he returned to the Royal Lotus Garden. Jin Ji and Shi Jixin were traveling together to train in the wilderness. They are both peak martial saints, Thousand Love Emperor said softly. That's true. Lin Feng smiled. Indeed, it was time for the 2 of them to be independent. All this time, Jin Ji and Shi Jixin had been relying on him and Thousand Love Emperor. They would never be able to grow into true experts. Perhaps now that the wilderness was in chaos, the more chaotic it was, the more battles there would be. This was actually a good thing for the cultivation of martial artists. More training and more opportunities. Especially now that the 2 of them had broken through the bottleneck of the Sage King realm. It was very difficult to break through just relying on hard work and comprehension. Don't worry. The ultimate move, that the 2 of them trained hard, is very powerful. Even an ordinary Sage King realm expert might not be their match, Thousand Love Emperor said with a smile. Ultimate move? Lin Feng was tempted and nodded. Ever since he entered the Sorcerer Tribe realm, he had noticed that there was a strange brand on the back of Jin Ji's left hand and Shi Jixin's right hand. Their brand was very similar. If one looked carefully, it looked like the left and right halves of a puzzle. That should be what Thousand Love Emperor was talking about. Judging from her expression, she had already experienced the ultimate move of the 2 of them. Moreover, Jin Ji has benefited from the Northern Dragon Guard and Wu Coin. His physique has improved tremendously. Now, in terms of combat strength, he is not inferior to me. Thousand Love Emperor said softly. Her eyes flashed with envy. She was happy for Jin Ji but also a little disappointed. After all, her strength had not improved but decreased. If it were any other expert, they would inevitably have some ripples in their heart. No matter how mature Thousand Love Emperor was, she was still young. Don't worry, I will help you. Lin Feng looked at Thousand Love Emperor with a smile and said softly, You have been helping me all this time. I owe you so many favors and it is time to return them. Now that Zi Yao has returned to my side, I have already achieved my original goal in the Sorcerer Tribe realm. Thousand Love Emperor's beautiful eyes flickered. Really? She did not decline and did not need to decline because Thousand Love Emperor was very clear about Lin Feng's character. Moreover, to the current Lin Feng, helping her was just a small matter. However, to her, it would take a lot of effort. She really wanted to increase her strength and recover 100% of her strength. She wanted to be stronger than before. Because she was also a martial artist. Of course. Lin Feng smiled and gave her a thumbs up. How could he not know what Thousand Love Emperor was thinking? I will do my best. Without any pressure or burden, everything was going smoothly for Lin Feng. It could be said that when the conditions were right, success would come naturally. He did not keep the heaven-grade treasure he had obtained from Z-Man Tower. Instead, he returned it to the Purple Moon Clan. After all, the Purple Moon Clan, which had suffered a great loss, urgently needed a strong expert to support them. They needed support and supplies. A kind person would be bullied, and a kind horse would be ridden. Wasn't it the same for the neutral races? Although there were 8,000 neutral races, there were less than 1,000 of them who could truly stand tall in the Douling world and hold their heads high in the Magus realm. 90% of the neutral races had either died in internal strife or hid from their natural enemies and enemies. They had scattered and lived in seclusion in various corners of the Doling world. It was the same for the Purple Moon clan. Z-Man Tower's strength when he was alive had allowed him to rise to power and inflate his ambition. At the same time, he had also offended many neutral races. Fortunately, although Ziyuan was a fence-sitter, he was slick. He had an excellent eloquence and was quite good at currying favor. It was not a derogatory term. To the current Purple Moon clan, this was a compliment. Survival in a world where the strong were supreme was not so easy. One had to lower their heads when under the eve. Have you heard? The Cloud King has officially announced his marriage with Zi Yao. Stupid, the two of them have already pledged to marry each other. This time, they are just putting on a show for others to see. You don't understand, right? This is a kind warning. Warning about what? The Purple Moon clan is really powerful. Being beautiful is indeed an advantage. Forget it, there's no point in being envious. They now have the support of 2 imperial cities. In the future, anyone who sees the Purple Moon clan has to be polite. I thought that the Purple Moon clan would be in trouble after Z-Manlu died. Who would have thought that their backing would be even stronger? The news spread everywhere. This was Lin Feng's doing on purpose. Holding another wedding with Zi Yao was not a kind warning like the rumors said to deter the neutral races who had ill intentions towards the Purple Moon clan. Instead, it was a sincere, make-up wedding. In the Purple Moon clan, in front of all Zi Yao's relatives and clansmen, he would openly marry her. This was a kind of ceremony, and it was also a protection for Zi Yao. After all, Zi Yao had been forced to marry old monster Yin Zhe and bear a crime. Now that the wedding was held, there would be no more rumors in the future. Thank you, Lin De Go. Zi Yao smiled. It's nothing. Lin Feng caressed her beautiful face and said softly, I just don't want others to talk about you behind your back. Zi Yao doesn't care. Zi Yao smiled and shook her head. I care. Lin Feng's eyes burned. They looked at each other and smiled. Their deep feelings were expressed without words. After so many hardships, the clouds had finally parted and the moon could be seen. Whether it was for Lin Feng or Zi Yao, this was the best answer and ending. Zi Yao, after the wedding, I'll take you back to the kingdom of Maru after I'm done with some chores. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Yes, Zi Yao understands. There was a hint of gentleness in her smile. Holding his big hands, Zi Yao looked at Lin Feng in front of her. He was completely different from before. He had more responsibilities and more maturity. The current Lin Feng had become one of the top experts in the Doling world. Thank you. Lin Feng nodded. Their hearts were linked, and there was no need for them to say anything more. Happiness had already arrived. However, protecting happiness was not necessary. There was still a long way to go. Chapter 1443. The place was bustling with activity. The scale of the wedding was unbelievably huge. It was not held in the Netherworld or Yen Imperial City. Instead, it was held in the Purple Moon clan. They had specially set up a teleportation formation in the clan for temporary access. Countless heavenly spirit realm cultivators had gathered in the Purple Moon clan. It could be said that they had given them face. After all, even the Emperor of the Dead and the Emperor of Hell had appeared. Who else would dare to put on airs? The names of Lin Feng and Lin Yun had even overshadowed the second-in-command of the Netherworld, Huang Quan. Their reputations were impressive. After the 3 emperors there were 2. Ziyuan was so busy that he was running around in circles, but he did not know who he should receive. At present, not only was he busy happily, he was also incomparably busy and excited. He was originally just a puppet of Z-Manlu and had never had the chance to come into contact with such powerful cultivators. Now, he could finally see the light. As for the other members of the Purple Moon clan, they were slightly nervous as they arranged their seats and took care of the miscellaneous task. Not to mention the sages, even the sage kings were cautious and conscientious. They were afraid of offending someone. Ziyao stood with a smile. She was not wearing a red cloth, and her face was bare, but her beauty was breathtaking. She was wearing a purple dress, and the crescent moon on her forehead shone with starlight. She was like a fairy from heaven. This time, there was nothing but a smile on her face. She was very happy. Finally, the day she had waited for had arrived. Her Lin de Gu had arrived. "Kid, don't fool me," the Emperor of the Dead shouted. "I wouldn't dare." Lin Feng smiled. "I am indebted to you. I will repay you." "Humph." The Emperor of the Dead's skull crown let out a deep voice. "This time, you stirred up big trouble and used me as a shield. I have yet to settle the score with you. Don't think that you can do whatever you want with the Emperor of Hell behind you. Let me tell you. If I really offend you, sir, no one can save me," Lin Feng said with a smile. "I understand." "Good." The Emperor of the Dead snorted. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. "Sir, you can rest assured. Although you and I are using each other, since you keep your promise, I will keep my word." With a glint in his eyes, Lin Feng sternly said, "That day, Huang Quan beat me up after using me. I will remember this. One day, I will definitely pay him back." The Emperor of the Underworld harumphed. "That goes without saying. What kind of status do I have? Why would I do something so despicable? Only that bastard Huang Quan is so immoral, giving birth to a son without **CK. Smiling gently, Lin Feng looked at the Underworld Emperor, and he had a good impression of him. Some people, when you first come into contact with them, you feel that they are very good, but in reality, they are two-faced and extremely shrewd, such as Huang Quan. As for some people, they would be influenced by their reputation when they first came into contact with them. They would think that they were unreachable and unapproachable. They would even be cruel and heartless. However, after getting to know them better, they would realize that they were not as they seemed on the surface. For example, the Emperor of the Underworld. Compared to the Yellow Springs, the Emperor of the Dead might not be as shrewd, and his methods might not be as sinister, but he was more suitable to be a friend than the Yellow Springs. Even if there was a day when he and the Emperor of the Underworld's interests went against each other, they would fight fair and square. He would not be like the Yellow Springs, who would scheme against you after using you, squeezing every last bit of value out of you. The Emperor of the Dead was far more upright than the Yellow Springs. "Skeleton!" A voice came from afar. The Emperor of the Dead was startled, and he turned his head. Lin Feng also turned his head and looked over. The person who came was Sacred Master Cloud Spear, dressed in martial attire. His hands were behind his back, and he looked like an ordinary person. Lin Feng could not sense any battle intent or aura from him. However, his temperament did not change at all. This was a true superior. "Yo, romantic!" The Emperor of the Dead raised his head and shouted. "Skeleton? Romantic?" Hearing the way the two addressed each other, Lin Feng could not help but laugh. He looked at Sacred Master Cloud Spear, and the corners of his mouth twitched. Obviously, he did not like this nickname. Sacred Master Cloud Spear looked over and nodded lightly. "Congratulations, Lin Feng." "Thank you." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. The relationship between him and Sacred Master Cloud Spear was like that of a teacher and a disciple, a friend and a confidant. It was a feeling of kinship. This feeling was very similar to the feeling he had with the Northern Dragon Guard, Pure Dragon Peak. However, it was not the feeling he had with the Northern Hell King. For some reason, perhaps it was because they both cared about the human race, and they were both addicted to the Tao of Spear. "I say, romantic. What wind blew you here today?" The Emperor of the Dead laughed mockingly. "I'm here to meet an old friend." Sacred Master Cloud Spear looked at the Emperor of the Dead and said slowly, "How have you been, skeleton? Don't give me that." The Emperor of the Dead's black skull crown eyes shone brightly. Are you so close to this kid? I heard that you did not attend the Southern Hell King's wedding. Sacred Master Cloud Spear's expression was calm as he said slowly, "We are fated." After pausing for a while, Sacred Master Cloud Spear looked at the Emperor of the Dead and revealed a rare smile. "Whether you believe it or not, I'm really here to meet an old friend. What do you want?" The Emperor of the Dead's voice changed slightly. "Nothing." Sacred Master Cloud Spear did not reply. Instead, he looked at Lin Feng with a gentle gaze. "Cherish the person in front of you, Lin Feng." "I will." Lin Feng nodded, but there was a trace of doubt in his heart. Just as the Emperor of the Dead felt, Sacred Master Cloud Spear in front of him seemed to have a different feeling this time. Sacred Master Cloud Spear nodded happily and patted Lin Feng's shoulder with his big hand. It was light and heavy, as if it contained many meanings. As he passed by, Sacred Master Cloud Spear's back view was lonely and lonely. Lin Feng turned around and looked at his back view. His chest heaved slightly. Sacred Master Cloud Spear was very strange today. However, he could not put his finger on it. "This guy, what is he doing now?" The Emperor of the Dead mumbled. "What is he doing?" Lin Feng's eyes glowed as he pondered. Ever since he had entered Emperor Yan's hall, Sacred Master Cloud Spear had been acting strange. He had imparted spear moves to him for no reason and had said those words to him for no reason. Now, he was acting strangely. What was he trying to do? He did not know. Even if he knew, it would be useless. After all, he was still one level below Sacred Master Cloud Spear. Huff! Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes shone. The wedding went on smoothly. No one came to cause trouble. Even the Emperor of Lulan, who had a grudge against Lin Yun, did not appear. After all, the Emperor of the Dead was not the only one attending the wedding. Even the Emperor of Hell, who was a reclusive expert, had come to attend. The three emperors were not on good terms. The Emperor of Lulan naturally had no interest in being humiliated in front of so many experts at this time. If it was a one-on-one battle, they might be evenly matched. If it was a one-on-two battle, he would be courting death. The newlyweds received the blessings of the crowd and completed the most luxurious wedding in Tianling in a million years. As for the Purple Moon tribe, their reputation had soared because of this wedding. Zimanlu's death had hurt the Purple Moon tribe greatly, but they had gained something back. Now that they had a son-in-law like Lin Feng, everything had changed. Imperial Garden. 9 turns spirit fruit. Lin Feng handed over a beautifully wrapped box. Thousand Love Emperor's beautiful eyes flashed as she received it with trembling hands. When she opened the box, a bright light shone. The rich aura of the soul mixed with the aura of life filled the entire room with a sweet fragrance. In the box was a strange fruit in the shape of a moon. It was crystal clear and gave off a mesmerizing smell. Pa! Thousand Love Emperor closed the box and pursed her lip. Her beautiful eyes sparkled. "Thank you, Lin Feng." "It's nothing." Lin Feng smiled. "I asked Dr. Ning. The effect of the 9 turns spirit fruit is better than the star fruit he recommended before. Not only can it completely heal your old injuries, but it can also raise your physique to another level. It's different from other strengthening star fruits. The 9 turns spirit fruit belongs to the lower limit of strengthening star fruit. It's most effective for cultivators with weak physique. We humans are the most suitable." Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he explained. "I originally wanted to buy it for you, but I didn't expect to get it so easily," Lin Feng said with a smile. "The Heaven Spirit Realm experts who attended the wedding are really rich. They gave you everything. There are even more valuable things than the 9 turns spirit fruit. I've already asked Ziyao to help you choose. When you completely digest the energy of the 9 turns spirit fruit and recover to 100% of your peak state, cultivation can officially begin. I can guarantee that in less than a month, your strength will increase by more than 10 times. Lin Feng's eyes glowed with confidence. Whether it was Jin Ji or Thousand Love Emperor, because of their physiques, the increase in strength was huge. Especially Thousand Love Emperor, who had broken through 70% of the Saint realm like him. Her talent was outstanding, and she was a rare genius. If she could break through to the Saint King realm, she would be a great help to him in the future. It was not enough to protect the southern region and the humans by himself. Just like when he was protecting the Sky Martial Continent, other than himself, there was also the commander Ziyao, the Moon Empress Tianqing, Yu Lan and the others. During the Second Great Witch Demon War, it was not only Sacred Leader Yunchang, there was also Sacred Leader Tianji, Emperor Yao and the other sacred leaders protecting the human race. Thank you. Thousand Love Emperor's eyes lit up as she smiled. You're welcome. Lin Feng smiled back. Their eyes met, and there was no need for more words. They were already partners who could trust each other the most. Too many. Lin Feng had too many treasures. Previously, he had obtained more than 100 treasures when he was in the Magus realm. Not counting the meteor treasures, he had obtained more than 100 treasures when he was in the heavenly treasure realm. There were also the spoils of war he had obtained from the battles, and the gifts he had accumulated from the wedding. His wealth was already quite terrifying. I don't need any of them. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Help me sell them all. Yes, Northern Wind Guardian. Lan Ji cupped her hands. As the Northern Wind Guardian, Lin Feng not only had a mansion, but he also had personal guards. Lan Ji was one of the 4 personal guards. The mixed-blood woman was both intelligent and brave. She was extremely good at handling trivial matters. She was the personal guard of the original Northern Dragon Guardian. Together with Long Yong, Hu Po and Yu Min, Lin Feng had already stabilized his position as the Northern Wind Guardian. I wonder how much it is if it's converted to shaman coins. Lin Feng's eyes flickered with curiosity. It was time for him to make a fortune. Chapter 1444. The auction house in Yen Imperial City was bustling with activity. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. Lin Feng auctioned off all the miscellaneous items. Apart from a small portion that he bought directly, the rest were all extremely valuable. For example, the exquisite jade sculpture gifted by the Emperor of the Dead was auctioned off at a sky-high price, a total of 1,000,000 Wu coins. It should be known that this was merely a decoration. However, it was sold at a price that was comparable to an orange-level heavenly treasure. How shocking was that? Not for anything else, but just the 2 words, Emperor of the Dead, were already extremely valuable. As for the gift from the Cloud Spear Holy Lord, it was a calligraphy painting. Lin Feng kept it as a treasure. Unlike the exquisite jade sculpture, which was purely a decoration, the calligraphy painting was personally written by the Cloud Spear Holy Lord. The words were filled with the Cloud Spear Holy Lord's feelings. This was truly a priceless treasure. Even though the price was at least 10,000,000 Wu coins, Lin Feng was not tempted. There were many things that could not be bought with money. How much? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Sir, after rounding it off, it was sold for 5,120,000 Wu coins. Lan Ji cupped her hands and said with a trembling voice. That was quite a lot. Lin Feng's eyes brightened and he was slightly shocked. The wealth came too quickly. He did not expect that he could not even take out 1,000 Wu coins previously. Now, he had an extra 5,000,000 Wu coins, but he did not know where to spend them. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Thank you for your hard work. 120,000 Wu coins will be your reward. Help me store the rest in the treasury. This time, it was Lan Ji's turn to be stunned. She widened her beautiful eyes in disbelief. 120,000 Wu coins was a huge sum of money. Even powerful warriors like Li Chan and Guo Bu, who were city guards, would be tempted by it, let alone personal guards like them. Even though Lan Ji was extremely intelligent, She had never received such a reward before. Keep it. There are still many things for you to do, Lin Feng said calmly. Your subordinate will do her best. Lan Ji bit her cherry lips and knelt down on one knee, her eyes burning. A gentleman would die for his bosom friend. At this moment, Lan Ji's impression of Lin Feng instantly rose from 70 points to 100 points. Lin Feng saw the change in Lan Ji's expression and smiled faintly. Of course, he could tell that Lan Ji had changed. To him, spending 120,000 Wu coins to buy a loyal subordinate who could do trivial things for him, why wouldn't he do it? With strength and status, money was just a number. A total of 5 million Wu coins. Hearing the numbers, Lin Feng was momentarily shocked when he entered the warehouse. His originally empty treasury now had a small mountain of shaman coins. When he saw it for himself, he was shocked. Lan Ji, who was behind him, revealed a hint of envy in her eyes. However, it was respect, and there was no greed at all. Go out first and guard the door, Lin Feng said. Yes, my lord. Lan Ji left respectfully. Phew! Lin Feng let out a breath and a faint light flashed in his eyes. The amount of money was no longer important to him. Strength was far more important than money. However, shaman coins were different. When he first came into contact with shaman coins, he already knew the structure of shaman coins. It contained a lot of star source energy. It was not the star source energy of warriors, but the true power of the stars. The star source energy. It was the energy that the strong warriors of the stars used. It was the key to restarting the Netherworld ship. The Netherworld ship used star source stones and star source energy as its energy. Now that it was closed and To-Do had exhausted his energy, it was because there was no star source energy. The solution could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be complicated. According to Duo, star origin stones were very rare. However, he had to walk this path. If he did not even try, how could he know whether he would succeed or not? That day, when he left the kingdom of Maru, he had 3 things to do. He had already found Ziyao. There were only 2 things left. One was to save his father, and the other was to restart the Netherworld ship and wake To-Do up. Saving his father was also related to To-Do. In other words, restarting the Netherworld ship was at the top of his list. At present, the Great Shaman War was in a stalemate. The southern region was fine, and he had saved Ziyao. He had a short period of time to rest. It was time to find the secret of star source stones. No matter what the result was, at least, he had to try. Lin Feng sucked in with both hands. There was a shaman coin in his left hand and a shaman coin in his right. The difference was that the shaman coin in his left hand was smaller, and the face value was clearly engraved on it. One was 1 shaman coin, while the other was 10 shaman coins. The difference was there. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The star source energy seeped into it and gave off a clear feeling. The reaction of his right hand was much bigger. Although it was not 10 times bigger, it was at least 5 times bigger. What did this mean? As expected, the face value of a shaman coin is related to the amount of star source energy. Lin Feng thought to himself. Without hesitation, the shaman coin in his left hand flew out and sucked in another shaman coin. This time, the face value of the shaman coin was 100. It was obviously more valuable than the 10 shaman coins in his right hand. The star source energy probed again. Lin Feng closed his eyes and sensed clearly. Lin Feng's eyes widened. He was deep in thought. Just as expected. It was just as he had expected. The amount of star source energy in his left hand was much more than that in his right hand. Again, Lin Feng was not in a hurry to come to a conclusion. Soon, he started experimenting again. The smallest shaman coin in front of him was 1 shaman coin. The largest shaman coin was 100,000 shaman coins. The thick and huge shaman coins hid a vast amount of energy. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Finally, He had finally found a star origin stone that he could use. However, if this huge 100,000 shaman coins were to be treated as a star source stone, it was just a small piece. However, so what if it was 1 million shaman coins or even 10 million shaman coins? So what if it was 100 million shaman coins? Huff, huff. His chest rose and fell. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. To him, the existence of the shaman coins was no doubt an opportunity, a very good opportunity. Although he did not know where the shaman coins came from or what the star source energy in them was, it was not important. What was important was that the shaman coins contained energy. Sufficient energy. This was enough. He did not need to care about anything else. It was not cultivation. He needed the process. He only needed the result. He only needed sufficient shaman coins. 5 million shaman coins is equivalent to 50,000 shaman coins. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly as he calculated in his heart. Then, he shook his head. However, there was no disappointment in his eyes. It was inevitable that it would not be enough. He was already mentally prepared for this. Restarting the Netherworld ship required a large amount of energy from star source stones. Although 100,000 shaman coins seemed to be a lot, it was not even half of the star source energy needed to convert them into star source stones. Even if it was 5 million shaman coins, a huge sum that could make countless sage kings go crazy, it was just a drop in the ocean to him. I need at least 100 times, no, 1,000 times of 5 million shaman coins. Or even more. Lin Feng's face turned solemn as he calculated in his heart. Although he had found a way, the amount of shaman coins he needed was much more than he had imagined. How much was 1,000 times of 5 million shaman coins? 5 billion shaman coins. It might be even more. This was shaman coins, the most expensive currency in the Douling world. It was not star crystal. Even earning 500 million or 50 million shaman coins was not an easy task, let alone 5 billion shaman coins. Lin Feng's chest rose and fell slightly. He revealed a faint smile. No matter what, at least he had found a way out. It was much better than being confused. In the Imperial Garden. 5 billion shaman coins? Ziyao covered her small mouth. Her face was filled with shock. Yes. Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He had guessed that Ziyao would have such a reaction. Indeed, this amount would shock anyone who heard it. It was too terrifying. Lin Degu, you're not joking with Ziyao, are you? Ziyao's beautiful eyes flickered. She said softly, if you want to earn 100 million shaman coins, you might have a chance. If you want to earn 5 billion shaman coins. Ziyao smiled bitterly and shook her head. She regained her calm. Her big eyes looked at Lin Feng helplessly. If it's 100 million shaman coins, how do I earn it? Lin Feng asked casually. Compared to him, Ziyao was from the Purple Moon clan after all. She lived in the heavenly spirit realm and naturally knew more about shaman coins than him. This included the price of goods, the profit of shaman coins, and so on. Auction the demon underworld lock. Ziyao said softly, Lin Degu, among all your treasures, only the demon underworld lock is worth this price. It's ranked in the Douling supremacy. It should be able to be auctioned for more than 100 million shaman coins. Ziyao smiled and said, speaking of which, there has never been an auction price of more than 100 million shaman coins in the 3 imperial cities. Never? Lin Feng was rather curious. The heavenly spirit realm had existed for a very long time. Ziyao nodded. The starting price of a blue heaven rank natural treasure is 10 million shaman coins. There have been a few auctions before, but it has never been auctioned for more than 100 million shaman coins. The highest was only 45 million. A blue heaven rank natural treasure. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. He more or less understood the price. In other words, if he wanted to obtain more than 100 million shaman coins, he would have to auction a heaven rank natural treasure that was ranked in the Douling supremacy. Besides the demon underworld lock, which was a blue heaven rank natural treasure. The rest were all indigo or even purple heaven rank natural treasures. Did he have any? If he did, would he auction them? Lin Feng pondered inwardly, but he already had an answer without hesitation. If he could restart the Netherworld ship and awaken to do, he would be willing to pay any price. Without to do, he wouldn't be who he was now. If he wanted to save his father, the first thing he needed to do was to restart the Netherworld ship. Money was just a worldly possession. What was there to be reluctant to part with? It's a pity. The Shield of Truth can definitely be sold for a sky-high price. It's just that it's completely compatible with me and can't be separated. Lin Feng thought inwardly. Other than the Shield of Truth, his most valuable treasure was the Demon Underworld lock. However, it was worth 100 million shaman coins. Compared to 5 billion shaman coins, it was just a drop in the bucket. Moreover, even if he obtained 5 billion shaman coins, it was still unknown whether he could restart the Netherworld ship. Was there any other way? Lin Feng frowned slightly. Chapter 1445. There was nothing he could do. 5 billion, not 500,000. Even a single cent could stump a hero, let alone a sum of 5 billion. In the entire sorcerer realm, even the combined wealth of the 3 emperors might not be this much. Lin Feng frowned, his eyes shining, but he could not think of a way. Moreover, this matter could only be discussed with Zi Yao, Thousand Love Emperor, and the others. It was not easy to mention to the Emperor of the Underworld and the Emperor of Hell. After all, the matter of the sorcerer coins and the star source energy involved too many things and was too complicated. It might not be good for him to know more people. Gambling? Lin Feng's eyes lit up, but he thought of Jean Ji's overnight millionaire, then he shook his head and rejected it. Not to mention whether there was something fishy about it, just the amount of bet had a huge limit. Moreover, how could he get 5 billion sorcerer coins by gambling? It was too whimsical. He might be targeted before he could get enough. What should he do? The road was obviously feasible, but the key was how to walk it. With his strength, he might be able to get enough sorcerer coins after a few years. However, it was not his wish to drag it out for so long. Right now, was there any other way? Heaven rank astral treasure, pyrolite. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although it was an acquired treasure, and could not compare to an innate treasure in terms of quality, it could completely surpass an innate treasure in terms of quantity. As long as he had enough materials, he could refine it without limit. The path of refining was based on the word Tao. If he could comprehend its mystery, everything would naturally follow. Moreover, pyrolite was a heaven-rank treasure after all. Even if it was an acquired treasure, it was comparable to an earth-rank black innate treasure. It was even better. Moreover, the quality of pyrolite depends on the main material. It depends on the quality of the divine beast blood essence. The higher the quality of the blood essence, the harder it is to refine, and the higher the grade of the pyrolite after it is successfully refined. The first time I refined it, I succeeded in 2. One was a heaven-rank red treasure, and the other was a heaven-rank orange treasure. The quality can be improved again. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled, and he already had an idea in his heart. In the sorcerer realm, the 3 great imperial cities of Tianling had one biggest characteristic, and that was that there were too many monks and too little porridge. There were so many saint-level powerhouses, but how many heaven-level treasures were there? The vast majority of heaven-ranked treasures were in the hands of Saint King Grade Masters, with less than 1% of all heaven-ranked treasures in the hands of Saint King Grade Masters. The vast majority of Saint King Grade Masters only possessed earth-ranked treasures. However, the martial saints of the 3 great imperial cities of heavenly spirit possessed a considerable amount of shaman coins. With their strength, they were completely capable of controlling heaven-ranked treasures. However, heaven-ranked treasures were often priceless. Saint King level experts did not have much need for shaman coins, but Saint level experts had great needs for all kinds of things. Right now, there was a huge gap between the Saint King realm and the Saint realm. It was a very good opportunity, if he could make use of it. The profits were considerable. Moreover, pyrrolite has a characteristic that other heaven-rank treasures can't compare to. That is extreme easy fit. Lin Feng's heart was calm. He was very clear about this. As long as he had enough soul power, he could even fuse countless pieces of the pyrrolite and form an army of divine beasts like a summoner. This was the unique advantage that acquired treasures had over innate treasures. The difference in grade did not mean that there were no benefits at all. A heaven-rank red innate treasure would cost at least 100,000 shaman coins, and a heaven-rank yellow innate treasure would cost at least 1,000,000 shaman coins. If the quality of the divine beast spirit is high enough, I can even refine the heaven-rank blue astral treasure, pyrrolite. When that time comes, the price will naturally be higher. As long as I have enough materials, I can make a huge profit in a short time. He muttered to himself in his heart, already having a decision. Lin Feng's eyes were burning as he smiled. Anyway, there's nothing big happening recently. I'll just treat it as cultivating the rebirth flame. Damn, why is there no divine beast blood essence left? I just found out. A few days ago, I wanted to buy a few drops of fire divine beast blood essence, but I couldn't find any in the entire Yen Imperial City. Ah, then is there any wood divine beast blood essence left? Nonsense. I don't know which nouveau riche snatched it all at once. There's nothing left. That can't be, shopkeeper. You don't have the extreme fire silkworm here either? Not just me, even the 5 great auction houses in Yen Imperial City don't have a single extreme fire silkworm. There's no harm in telling you. They were all bought by a mysterious person 10 days ago. Damn, hoarding at a high price. This again. Which merchant has such sharp eyes? Who knows? There's no news at all this time. It's probably a big shot. Within Yen Imperial City there was a lot of gossip. Although the divine beast blood essence and the extreme fire silkworm were out of stock, it was very strange. After all, Yen Imperial City was so big, and the tribes here came from all over the world. It was completely different from the human territories. All kinds of materials, no matter how precious, could be found in Yen Imperial City. But now there were 2 materials that were out of stock. It was rare. But rare didn't mean that it couldn't be seen. Even rarer ones had been seen before. Many merchants bought them at a low price, hoarded them, and then sold them at a high price. This wasn't the first time something like this happened. Although it was a little special this time, and the buyer's identity was very mysterious, it didn't attract much attention. After all, it was just 2 materials. Moreover, the divine beast blood essence was quite usable, but the extreme fire silkworm didn't have much use for it. But probably no one would have guessed that these 2 materials would cause a huge commotion in Yen Imperial City, and even the entire Tianling. The materials were indeed unremarkable, but weapon refiners could turn something rotten into something magical. Using flames and the art of weapon refinement, they could turn ordinary materials into something that was truly worth it. Astral treasure by. In the Douling world, only Lin Feng could refine it. The materials were extremely abundant. With 5 million Wu coins as the capital, Lin Feng didn't hesitate to buy them. Lan Ji personally bought all the divine beast blood essences and extreme fire silkworms in Yen Imperial City. Naturally, she wouldn't reveal her identity. Lin Feng had even arranged for people to enter the netherworld to start purchasing. The more materials, the better. After all, he was now in a high position. His brother, Lin Yun, was one of the 4 great leaders of the netherworld. Lin Feng was now a big shot in Tianling. To investigate Lin Feng's identity, it would at least be a big shot like the King of Hell Northern. But would the King of Hell Northern care about such matters? He had nothing better to do. Buy. By. The fire was ignited. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He left all the miscellaneous matters to Lan Ji. Don't use people you don't trust. Don't doubt people you use. Of the 4 great guards, Lan Ji was the most trustworthy and the most capable. Not only was she in charge of purchasing, the sale of the astral treasure buy was also on the agenda. 10 days had passed since he started the weapon refinement. Whoosh, his eyes shone. In his perfect state, Lin Feng's breathing was calm. He could control his hands as he pleased, without any restrictions. Breaking through from the peak of the Saint level to the Saint King level, his ability to control fire had increased by more than 10 times. Previously, he still needed Lady Nangong's help. Now, he could do it alone. This was an improvement. Compared to Lady Nangong's help, one person controlling the entire process would undoubtedly make the weapon refinement smoother and more focused. Similarly, the success rate would be higher. Z. The flame of rebirth emitted a dazzling light. Its color and flame were different from before. In a short 10 days, it had transformed to the 84th layer. The speed of improvement was quite fast. Using the path of weapon refinement as a cultivation method, he had enough materials to squander. Condensing the flame of rebirth, it could be said that it complemented each other. Not only was the weapon refinement smoother, his control of fire was stronger. The flame of rebirth's upgrade had reached a whole new level. 3-dimensional fire. Lin Feng was calm, his expression overflowing. 10 days ago, his control of the 3-dimensional fire was still vague. But now it was different. The changes in the flame were mixed with the dense path of the constellation. This was what he felt when he was continuously experimenting. Using the constellation path to control the 3-dimensional fire was more direct, and more profound. This was because the 3-dimensional fire itself belonged to the weapon refinement path of a supervoid expert. Zilong. Lightning flashed, spinning intensely. Space seemed to be torn apart. The flame and the weapon merged, bringing out a strange energy. Between heaven and earth, it was as if something was changing. The entire space seemed to be tightly squeezed by a hand. The power was completely twisted together, and the 3-dimensional fire was instantly ignited. Combine! Lin Feng shouted. The light in his eyes was persistent and firm, and it carried a strong confidence. Compared to the uncertainty 10 days ago, his current refining of the astral treasure, Qi, had improved by too much. Hua, the flame dimmed slightly and the mist dispersed. In front of him, after the light retreated, what was left was a cluster of solid flame. Looking carefully, in the center of the flame, there was a faint light flickering like a lamp. It was very strange. The red flame had a faint orange color. It was clearly a heaven-rank orange-grade treasure, full of rich life energy. Heaven-rank orange-grade astral treasure, Qi-born. Pa! Holding it in his hand, there was still some heat. Lin Feng smiled. His excitement was gone. What was left was calmness and naturalness, like a river flowing into the sea. In the short 10 days, he had improved by too much. Not only did he improve the rebirth flame, but he also mastered the refining of the astral treasure Qi, the control of the 3-dimensional fire, everything now. He was already very familiar with it. And the final result was an increase in the success rate. From the initial 10% to 30%, 50%, and now almost 80%. A full 80% success rate. One had to know that this was a heaven-rank treasure. However, it's only limited to the heaven-rank red grade. If it's an orange-grade Qi, the success rate is only about 60%. As for a yellow-grade Qi, the success rate is only 40%. The main reason is that the control of the fire is not strong enough. But with the rebirth flame and the increase in strength, everything will slowly improve. Lin Feng smiled. But the astral treasure Qi in his hand disappeared. Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng turned and walked out of the secret room. It was time to sell the first batch of astral treasure qi. But he didn't know how big of a commotion it would cause in Yen Imperial City and Tianling. As for himself, how much could he earn? Chapter 1446. Beiyu Auction House. Located in North City, it was one of Yen Imperial City's 5 great auction houses. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Moreover, to Lin Feng, this was his territory, an area that he could completely control. Beifeng Guard's name was like thunder in North City. His reputation had long surpassed Li Chan's, becoming the head of the 4 great city guards. Strength and position were directly proportional. How many does Sir plan to auction? A fat man in gorgeous clothes had bright eyes. One could not judge a book by its cover. This fat man was the manager of the Beiyu auction house. His position was high, and he was known as Qian Bujin. Normally, many martial artists would cater to him. In North City, he was considered a character. At this moment, he was nevertheless respectful to Lin Feng. 100. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. 100? Qian Bujin's eyes widened, dumbstruck. Previously, he had followed Lin Feng's intentions to advertise. Originally, he thought there would only be a few, but he never thought the number would be so large. It was known that what Lin Feng wanted to sell were heaven-rank treasures. A few was already considered a lot. 100, was this a joke? Qian Bujin was a bit stupefied. Right, 100 heaven-rank red-grade astral treasure qi. Lin Feng slowly said, as if he was only speaking of an insignificant matter. The lowest auction price of a heaven-rank treasure was 100,000 shaman coins. 100 pieces, in other words, was more than 10 million shaman coins. To the Beiyu auction house, this was a considerably large transaction. In fact, to any martial artist, this was a huge fortune. Qian Bujin's eyes rolled, and he cupped his hands. In this lowly one's humble opinion, Sir might as well auction the 100 astral treasures qi separately. The first time, 10 pieces, the second time, 20. Each time is better than the last. This way, the price may be slightly higher. No need. Lin Feng directly rejected. These 100 pieces are only the first batch. When they are all sold, 3 days later, you can help me sell the second batch of 100 heaven-rank red-grade astral treasures. Qi Lin Feng's gaze flickered. He hesitated slightly, weighed the gains and losses, and then said, when the 2 batches of auctions end, I will give you the third batch of heaven-rank orange-grade astral treasures. Qi, don't ask. Do your part. Lin Feng's expression was calm as he looked at Qian Bujin. Naturally, he could tell what Qian Bujin was thinking. Qian Bujin was good at flattery, but he did not fall for it. Different people would use different methods. To win over Lan Ji, one needed to use both kindness and coercion. But for this fatty in front of him, he only needed to be tough enough. Yes, yes, sir. Qian Bujin's expression changed slightly as he bowed and said. Their faces were filled with shock. They were truly stunned by Lin Feng's generosity. What did he mean by the second batch and the third batch? This was the heaven-rank astral treasure qi. Daring to ask for it, could it be sold wholesale? However, Lin Feng did not explain too much. With a schwa sound, he took out a deep blue storage ring and tossed it over. 100 astral treasures qi help it make a name for itself. After deducting the 3% commission from the auction, I'll give you 1% as commission. Qian Bujin took the storage ring and felt its weight. 1% commission? These 100 astral treasures qi could be sold for at least 10 million shaman coins. Not only could he help the auction earn more than 300,000 shaman coins, he could also earn more than 100,000 shaman coins. Thinking of this, Qian Bujin's chest rose and fell rapidly. His expression kept changing. It was too shocking. Remember, follow the normal procedure. Lin Feng's eyes were burning as he looked at Qian Bujin. I think you know what to do. I will definitely keep my mouth shut. Qian Bujin bowed slightly and said respectfully, Sir, you can be at ease. Lin Feng nodded and did not say anything else. He turned and left. He left behind an overjoyed Qian Bujin, who was jubilant. The commission was secondary. The most important thing was the goods. The competition between Yan Imperial City's 5 great auction houses was extremely intense. Whoever had sufficient high-quality goods would undoubtedly have the upper hand. And this time, to Qian Bujin, was undoubtedly a great opportunity. The place was bustling with noise and excitement. The North Corner Auction House welcomed the largest crowd of people in the past 100 years. Even the entrance ticket was being hyped up. The last time such a situation happened was when a heaven-rank green-grade innate treasure was auctioned. It caused a huge commotion. And today it was a rather unique auction. There were no other auction items. There was only one item, the astral treasure by heaven-rank red-grade treasures. There are actually more than 100 of them. This is crazy. Since when did heaven-rank treasures become so common? I heard that it's a batch of ancient treasures. I really don't know which lucky person it is. How much are these 100 astral treasures by worth? Did you see the introduction? So the astral treasure by is an acquired treasure. Isn't that perfect? Innate treasures are expensive and not easy to fuse with. Acquired treasures are different. In a short period of time, they perfectly fuse together. No matter how powerful they are, at least they can be used. That's right. One astral treasure by is equivalent to an unkillable saint-grade magic pet. How good is that? It's both cool and presentable. Especially for heavenly deities, it's like an invisible meat shield. No matter what, I must snatch one this time. Outside the North Corner Auction House, people were surging and bustling. All of the discussions were focused on the astral treasure by. They were very curious about it. This was the first time the astral treasure by had appeared in the witch realm, in the Douling world. Because of its uniqueness, it was sandwiched between earth-rank innate treasures and heaven-rank innate treasures. Listening to all kinds of voices, Lin Feng calmly walked over alone. Recently, Xiao had been accompanying his mother in the Imperial Garden. Furthermore, there were many people around, so there was no need to bring Xiao along. Not bad. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He was very satisfied with Qian Bujin's arrangement of this auction. Without any other auction items mixed in, everyone's focus and attention would undoubtedly be on the buy. The introduction of the advertisement in advance was also very detailed, including its functions, advantages and disadvantages, and what kind of martial artist it was suitable for. There was nothing hidden, and this was something he had specially instructed Qian Bujin. There was no need to pick out the good stuff and sell it openly. There was nothing to fake, so as to avoid more disputes in the future. The astral treasure by was not the best, but its biggest advantage was that it was easy to fit, suitable for almost all saints. Most importantly, it was stronger than Earth-rank innate treasures. It was just right to grab the huge market of saints. Not to mention 100 astral treasure by, even if it was 1,000 or 10,000, there was no need to worry about not having enough buyers. Just the North City of Yan Imperial City alone had tens of thousands of martial saints. Lin Feng. A shout came from afar, directly calling his name. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He turned his head and saw Li Chan and the other two walking together. The one who called him was Li Chan. Brother Li, are you interested in the astral treasure by? Lin Feng asked curiously. Li Chan smiled and shook his head. I'm just here to join in the fun. The North Corner Auction House hasn't been so lively in a long time, but... His gaze fell on Guolu. Li Chan smiled and said, but little sister is very interested, pestering me to bring her here. Guolu? Lin Feng softly grunted. His gaze fell on that little fairy with wings. The latter snorted and turned her head away, not looking at him. Even though they had already buried the hatchet, Guolu still ignored him. But it didn't matter. I didn't think the North Fruit Guardian would be interested in an acquired red rank treasure. Lin Feng smiled. Guolu looked weak, but to be able to become one of the 4 great city guardians, how could she be weak? As a Saint King, the astral treasure was of little value to Guolu. He actually couldn't understand it. But how could a little girl's temperament be so accurate? She's using it as a toy, haha. Taoist Master Tianji laughed heartily. When did I? Guolu flapped her wings and said angrily. Li Chan smiled. It's like this. Little sister wants to buy a flashy magic beast pet. She can use it as a mount and show off. So that's how it was. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he brushed it off with a smile. Indeed, to Guolu this was the only use. As a Saint King, she was so strong that she didn't need an astral treasure to enhance her strength. Moreover, buying an astral treasure wasn't a big deal to Guolu. It was just 100,000 shaman coins. But Brother Lin, you're here? Li Chan's eyes flashed, somewhat confused. I'm here to take a look for Xiao. Lin Feng replied with a smile. Li Chan and the other 2 nodded. Taoist Master Tianji gave him a thumbs up. Brother Lin, you really are a model husband. You're worthy of my admiration. Even Guolu, who had always been indifferent to Lin Feng, softened her expression, but still ignored him. The little girl's temper was very stubborn. A chance meeting is better than an invitation. Brother Lin, why don't we go together? Li Chan smiled and made a please gesture. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. There was a sea of people. Entering the auction house, the inside was even more lively than outside. The dark mass was already filled with people. It was so crowded that not even a drop of water could trickle through. There were at least a few 100,000 or even 1,000,000 seats. Basically, there were no empty seats. There were waves of discussion, but there was a suffocating feeling in the air, like a storm was coming. Above the auction house, there were 12 huge boxes and 108 small boxes, specially set up for distinguished guests. As the city guard, Li Chan naturally had the highest treatment. Brother Lin, do you know who's in charge of this auction? Standing at the window, Li Chan asked casually. Does Brother Li know? Lin Feng asked back. Shaking her head, Li Chan slowly said, I once went to interrogate Qian Bujin, but the latter kept his mouth shut. Even if I beat him black and blue, he still wouldn't say a word. According to the rules of the North City, the auction house does have the obligation to hide the identity of the auctioneer, but, pausing, Li Chan looked over and said slowly, he would rather offend Bei Guoshuo to keep this a secret. This mysterious person must have a distinguished identity. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Qian Bujin was a smart person. Naturally, a wise man submits to circumstances. Angering him or angering Guoshuo was better than angering him. However, it seemed that he was quite unlucky. Guoshuo, this little girl, was very hateful. What do you think, Brother Li? Lin Feng asked again. Looking ahead, Li Chan smiled. Qian Bujin is very smart. Since he's unwilling to reveal, if I insist on asking and know too much, it won't be a good thing for me. Looking at Lin Feng with bright eyes, Li Chan smiled and said, Isn't that right, Brother Lin? Chapter 1447. Their eyes met and Lin Feng smiled. From Li Chan's eyes, he could see many things. There were guesses, certainty, and curiosity. Of course, there was no need to answer. Maybe. Lin Feng smiled. Li Chan was indeed very smart. Not only did he have strength comparable to the King of Hell, but he was also very mature. He was experienced and decisive in dealing with matters. Even though he was in the limelight now and had suppressed this strongest city guard, he did not see any unhappiness or other changes in his emotions. This person was very shrewd. What are you two talking about? At this time, Taoist Tianji walked over with a smile. Nothing, just chatting. Li Chan smiled. Yes. Lin Feng nodded and changed the topic. Tianji, you wouldn't be interested in bidding for a hoe, right? I have no money. Daoist Tianji's face turned bitter and he sighed. His money is all used on divination. He's extremely obsessed. Li Chan said and smiled. Plus, not long ago, Brother Lin and Dongting Shou's battle, Tianji bet almost all his money on Dongting Shou. Even though he borrowed some money to bet on you, Brother Lin, he could not quench his thirst. In the end, he lost so much that he even lost his pants. Really? Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Soon, he chatted with the crowd and got along well with them. This time, he came without a goal. Lin Feng was completely relaxed. Without any pressure, he got along well with the crowd. After all, the North City was different from other places. The North City had deep human root. Li Chan, Daoist Tianji, and Guolu all had human blood flowing in their bodies. The auction soon began. Different from the nervous and excited warriors in the seats, Lin Feng was calm and collected. Before the auction, Qian Bujin had already made a rough estimate. Even though it was the first time the astral treasure Ho appeared, there were more than 100 of them, which would lower the price. Even so, the nature of a heaven-rank treasure would not change. Even the worst heaven-rank red innate treasure would be sold for more than 200,000 Wu coins. And the astral treasure Ho's value 120,000. 150,000. 200,000. The price instantly rose to 200,000 Wu coins. The auction for the first astral treasure puppet had already begun. In the sorcerer realm, there were many rich warriors, especially saint-level warriors. Other than the star fruits that could increase their strength, they also had their eyes on treasures. However, to martial saint-level experts, earth-grade treasures were of little value, and heaven-grade treasures were too rare. Thus, many martial saint-level experts had a lot of Wu coins in their pocket. Slowly accumulating, he had been waiting for a heaven-grade treasure. Now, Qi's arrival was like a magnet that attracted everyone's attention. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he calmly looked ahead. He had already accepted 5 million Wu coins, so a few 100,000 Wu coins was not a big deal. Despite auctioning 100 astral treasures Qi, however, the first one is absolutely the most expensive. Not only does it have a collectible value, it symbolizes even more power, wealth, and status. Lin Feng thought to himself. He was very clear on this point. Auctioning treasures was not just about their original abilities. The auction also gave it another layer of value. Oh, 300,000 so quickly. Li Chan was also quite surprised. At this speed, the final price might be around 500,000 Wu coins. Daoist Tianji muttered. Really, raising the price without reason. Guowan angrily muttered. This is only the first one. Lin Feng's expression was calm as he slowly said, from the second one onwards, the price will drop. When 1/3 of the Qi is auctioned, it will return to its normal price. If you want to buy it, then it will be the best time. Brother Lin is right. Li Chan indifferently said, although the astral treasure puppet is precious, it is the icing on the cake, not the timely help. Plus, it is not an innate treasure, but an acquired one. The exact price should be around 140,000. A bright light flashed across Lin Feng's eyes. Li Chan was indeed worthy of being called the strongest city guard. Although he was not a professional, his valuation was quite accurate. According to Qian Bubu, the astral treasure puppet's valuation was between 140,000 Wu coins to 150,000 Wu coins. Although Li Chan's valuation was slightly lower, it was quite close. Oh, it has exceeded 500,000 Wu coins. Daoist Tianji said in surprise. Following his voice, Lin Feng's gaze and attention once again gathered on the auction. At this moment, there were only 2 buyers, who were competing against each other. The rest of the buyers had already backed out. After all, 500,000 Wu coins had already far exceeded the normal price. 530,000. 550,000. 570,000. 600,000. Bang! Like thunder, the auction was in an uproar. The price of 600,000 Wu coins was too terrifying. However, to the two big figures sitting in the big box, this price seemed to be just a bargaining chip. Money, when it reached a certain price, was merely a number. 700,000. The voice in box number 3 raised a real climax. However, before the first wave subsided, another wave rose. The big figure in box number 10 instantly bid again, shocking the auction house. 800,000. 900,000. The voice in box number 3 was somewhat angry and hoarse. 1 million. The indifferent voice from private room number 10 completely suppressed the imposing manner of private room number 3. Every time private room number 3 made a bid, he would be instantly suppressed. Such boldness and wealth had caused private room number 3 to be completely defeated. The frightening sum of 1 million made everyone gasp in amazement. What was certain was that the remaining 99 astral treasure puppets would definitely not be able to be sold at such a high price. 1 million. Most of it was not for the astral treasure puppets, but for face and dignity. Or for other reasons. This is really crazy. Lin Feng smiled. It was like the sandpiper and the clam fighting, and the fisherman benefits. No matter how fiercely they fought, in the end, they were the ones laughing. The huge number of 1 million Wu coins was 400,000 more than Qian Bujin's original estimate of 600,000 Wu coins. It seemed to mean that the competition for the 100 astral treasure puppets today would be even more intense and lively. The auction had just begun. As expected, as if it was affected by the first astral treasure puppet, the second astral treasure puppet was also sold at an astonishingly high price. It was a total of 760,000 Wu coins, which shocked everyone once again. Following that, 680,000, 630,000, 600,000. The first 5 astral treasure puppets were all sold at an unbelievable price, which made people gasp in amazement. Following that, 570,000, 550,000, 540,000. It was only until the 10th astral treasure puppet that the price fell below the 500,000 mark. The auction house was filled with sounds of suffocation. The terrifying price made it difficult for people to breathe. It was a price of 500,000, and it was almost enough to buy an ordinary orange rank heaven rank treasure in some places. But now, it was only able to buy a red rank heaven rank acquired treasure. Astral treasure puppet. Although the previous high price was unexpected, as time went on, the price was still unavoidable. However, after all, limited by the high price at the beginning, the final price was not low either. The 1/3 position that Lin Feng had estimated before was still sold at a high price of 250,000 Wu coins. Madness was the existence of infection and residual heat. Just like a huge chessboard, the movement of any chess piece would change the situation of the chessboard. The 50th puppet, 210,000 Wu coins. The 60th puppet, 180,000 Wu coins. It was only until the 80th puppet that it finally reached the fixed price of 150,000 Wu coins. However, from the 85th puppet onwards, the price of the puppet had a new small slope. It slowly rose from 150,000, and when it reached the 93rd puppet, the price once again reached 200,000 Wu coins. As the number of puppets became fewer and fewer, those warriors who were unable to make up their minds before had now thrown caution to the wind. One could not trap the wolf without sacrificing the child. What was the use of money? Strength was the most important. In the current situation where heaven-ranked treasures were priceless, the astral treasure puppet had undoubtedly taken advantage of a huge loophole. Especially the divine beast summoned by the astral treasure puppet not only had an immortal body, it also had the ability to cultivate and had the possibility to improve. In other words, it was a true existence like a magic pet. It had great potential. 320,000 Wu coins. As the last astral treasure puppet reached the peak again, the auction officially ended. The highest price was 1 million Wu coins, the lowest was 150,000 Wu coins, the average price was 290,000 Wu coins. The total price was close to 30 million Wu coins. This auction not only attracted a lot of attention, it also attracted a lot of attention. It had been a long time since the Northern Territory auction house had seen such a terrifying price. Guiyun's face was gloomy, and her angry expression made her look sullen. Lin Feng naturally saw it. She had called out many times, but every time she was rejected by someone else, because she did not have enough money. Even though Li Chan was willing to lend it to her, Guiyun did not want to lose face in front of him, so she refused to lend it to Li Chan. Therefore, she missed the opportunity a few times, and in the end, she did not have the chance to get the astral treasure puppet. Even though she was the city guard, strength was strength, and it had nothing to do with money. Guiyun was richer than Taoist priest Tianji, but there was a limit. In addition, like Taoist priest Tianji, she had lost a lot of money by betting on Tating Mammer. Now, she only had 100,000 Wu coins left. Didn't you say that the normal price is 150,000 Wu coins? Guiyun looked at Lin Feng and said angrily. Don't you have a few? Lin Feng smiled calmly. Yes, little sister. Taoist priest Tianji continued. You didn't buy it because you didn't think it was cool enough. Brother Lin is right. The normal price is indeed 150,000. Forget it, let's see if we can buy it again next time. There won't be a next time. Guiyun stomped her foot, feeling even more wronged by Taoist priest Tianji's words. She looked at Lin Feng and scolded, You lied to me. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Lin Feng was speechless. But what did this have to do with him? Little sister, Li Chan said in a low voice, Don't be unreasonable. I don't care, it's all his fault. Guiyun said in a sweet voice, her face red. Sighing helplessly in his heart, Lin Feng looked at Guiyun and said, So, what do you want? I. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Guiyun was at a loss for words. She was just throwing a tantrum because she couldn't buy her favorite item, and she really didn't want to do anything. Suddenly, she raised her eyebrows and raised her head. I don't care, I'll give you 150,000, no, 140,000 Wu coins. Help me buy an astral treasure puppet. Little sister. Li Chan's voice became heavier, and her expression became serious. That's enough, right? Lin Feng said calmly, but it stunned Li Chan and the other two. Chapter 1448. You have an astral treasure puppet? Guiyun's beautiful eyes widened, looking at Lin Feng. Not answering, Lin Feng did not want to be entangled with this girl anymore. Light flickered in his hand, and then a flame-like light appeared, flashing with orange brilliance, competing for attention. Its sudden appearance lit up the entire box. Not only Guiyun, even Li Chan and Taoist Master Heavenly Secret were incomparably shocked. Take it. Lin Feng casually tossed it, and the astral treasure puppet drew a parabola, accurately landing in Guiyun's hand. Orange-grade astral treasure puppet? Taoist Master Heavenly Secret murmured in shock. Li Chan's eyes flashed with a light. Guiyun caught the slightly hot astral treasure puppet, but for a moment she was unable to react. Originally, she was only joking, and did not really think of asking Lin Feng for the astral treasure puppet. After all, in the auction just now, everyone was there, and Lin Feng also did not get a single item. Brother Lin, you. Li Chan said hesitantly. A gift from a friend, take it. Lin Feng looked at Guiyun and said indifferently. This. Guiyun's face turned red and she was a bit at a loss. She immediately reacted and wanted to take out the shaman coins, but Taoist Master Heavenly Secret had already pressed her hand down and whispered, Little sister, this is an orange-grade puppet, not a red grade. His words enlightened her. Guiyun looked at the puppet in her hand, her chest heaving up and down, her face bright red. She only had a few 100,000 shaman coins. Not to mention an orange-grade puppet. Even if she bought a red-grade puppet according to the auction price, it would not be enough. Right now, she could neither take it nor not take it. It was extremely awkward. Li Chan saw this and smiled indifferently, trying to smooth things over. Brother Lin, this gift is a bit too much, I'm afraid I can't accept it. No need to be polite, we're all on the same side. Lin Feng looked at Guiyun, his eyes bright, and smiled faintly. Take it? The expression in Li Chan's eyes changed slightly. She looked at Guiyun and said, Why haven't you thanked Brother Lin? Nibbling her cherry lips, Guowu didn't dare to look at Lin Feng. She mumbled, Thank you. Although she was a little embarrassed and shy, when Lin Feng heard it, there was a sense of intimacy, which was very different from before. Smiling faintly, Lin Feng nodded. He naturally would not bicker with a little girl like Guiyun, however. An astral treasure puppet before him could dissolve the grudges between them, shattering that formless chasm. This nevertheless could not be better. They would see each other frequently, so there was no need to make their relationship too tense. Brother Lin is really generous. Li Chan smiled. It's just a worldly possession, Lin Feng said calmly. Their eyes met, and he could see a lot from Li Chan's eyes. This included the suspicion in his heart. It was heavier and more certain than before, but he didn't care. In fact, even if Li Chan guessed it, it was not a big deal. Even if the news of him being the mysterious person who sold the astral treasure puppet was announced, it would not do anything. The current him was no longer the same as before. Under the heavenly spirit throne, he was now only below the three emperors. Regardless of fame or power, he was genuine. He had Qian Bujin conceal it only because he didn't want to be too high-profile. It didn't mean he cared. Northern Corner Auction House. Well done. Lin Feng looked at Qian Bujin and praised him. Many thanks for milord's praise. This is my honor. Qian Bujin's fat face piled together as he smiled. Lin Feng was not only his immediate superior, but also his god of wealth. Qian Bujin wished he could worship Lin Feng, appearing very respectful. In this auction, not only did he earn a fortune, the auction house also earned a lot. His reputation and benefits were great. Saying this, Qian Bujin took out a black storage ring and respectfully handed it over with both hands. Here is all the profit, milord. A total of 27.07 million shaman coins. 27.07 million shaman coins? Lin Feng took the ring and his eyes flickered. After deducting 3% of the auction house's expenses and Qian Bujin's 1% commission, the 27.07 million shaman coins should have been 20 million shaman coins. He had participated in the entire auction, so he was very clear that the total value of the auction was exactly 29 million shaman coins. 800,000 shaman coins less? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and then he understood. The person in room 10 is one of your people? Lin Feng looked at Qian Bujin and said slowly. Qian Bujin's eyes brightened. He cupped his hands and said, Milord is wise. It is the person I invited to raise the price of the astral treasure puppet. I was just about to report this matter to Milord. Although the first astral treasure puppet was sold for 1 million shaman coins, it was not the actual income. After the auction, I sold it for 200,000 shaman coins. Lin Feng nodded. As expected. No wonder there was a difference of 800,000 shaman coins. As for how much the first astral treasure puppet was sold for, whether it was 200,000 shaman coins like Qian Bujin said or more, it was not that important. Some rules were clear. Qian Bujin had put in a lot of effort in this auction, so it was natural to give him some benefits. After all, he had to give him some soup, so there was no need to point it out. Originally, these 100 astral treasure puppets could be sold for 20 million shaman coins, which was already too much. Now, there was an extra 10 million shaman coins. Most importantly, after this auction, the reputation of the astral treasure puppets had been completely raised. After that, there would be a second batch, a third batch, a fourth batch, and a fifth batch. The subsequent prices would also be included. No matter for him, Qian Bujin, and the auction house, it was a win-win deal. Today, the auction of the astral treasure puppet will definitely spread throughout the 3 great imperial cities. According to the original plan, when the topic is the highest tomorrow, spread the news for me. After that, release another 100 heaven-rank red-grade astral treasure puppet. With the current popularity, it will definitely attract the strong warriors from the other imperial cities. Strike while the iron is hot. You know what to do, Lin Feng said slowly with a calm expression. 27 million shaman coins. To other warriors, it might be a huge sum, but to him, it was merely a fraction. What he wanted was a total of 5 billion shaman coins. Yes, my lord. Qian Bujin's eyes glowed. He bowed and said, I will do my best to fight for the greatest benefits for my lord. The astral treasure puppets were a hot topic. The auction here had just ended. The saint-level warriors who won the auction were all grinning from ear to ear. Very quickly they agreed and increased their strength. Although they spent a considerable amount of money, it was worth it. At least, it was better than those warriors who could only stare. However, only a day had passed. Another important piece of news was spread. 2 days later, the Northern Region Auction House would sell another 100 heaven-rank red-grade astral treasure puppet. It was shocking. Damn, who says they don't know how to sell in batches to obtain the greatest profit? That's right. They still think the auction house is a fool. I think they are the real idiot. If they don't have enough stock, would they need to sell them in batches? Crazy. Where the hell did so many astral treasure puppets come from? Quick, go raise the money. This time we must get it, damn it. Another 100. Heavens, who the hell is this selling them in batches? This ability to make money is too terrifying. Before one wave had subsided, another wave rose. The entire Yen imperial city became lively. Not only that, but it also affected the Netherworld and the Lulan kingdom. Many warriors were thinking of ways to enter Yen imperial city, but no matter which imperial city it was, there were too many monks and too little meat. The scarcity of heaven-rank innate treasures made the astral treasure puppets red overnight. They went crazy over it. How is the purchase going? Lin Feng asked indifferently. Reporting to my lord, Yen Imperial City has already been emptied. Now we are purchasing on a large scale in the Netherworld. Lan Zi's expression was serious. The speed must be fast. I'm afraid that with the sudden appearance of the astral treasure puppets, some people will be able to sense that the extreme fire silkworm and divine beast blood essence are suddenly out of stock. At that time, the purchase will be blocked. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He said slowly, put the purchase of the Lulan kingdom on the agenda. Immediately send people over. This. Lan Zi hesitated. Pa. Lin Feng raised his hand, and the storage ring he took from Qian Bujin immediately fell into Lan Zi's hand. He said quickly, there are 27 million shaman coins here. It's enough for you to complete the purchase. You must act fast. It doesn't matter if the price is a little higher, understand? This subordinate will do her best. Lan Zi's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she cupped her hands and said. After saying that, her beautiful figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. Looking at the disappearing figure, Lin Feng's eyes lit up slightly, and his lips pursed slightly. 5 billion shaman coins. This was going to be a tough battle. If it's only 1 billion, I'm confident. But 5 billion shaman coins. Lin Feng frowned deep in thought. Right now, the auction of the astral treasure puppets was only the beginning. The price of the red rank puppets was quite mediocre. The ones that could really make a profit were the higher-grade astral treasure puppet. Orange, yellow, green, or even higher. The higher the grade, the higher the price. However, refining them was not that easy. First of all, I must increase the success rate. Lin Feng thought to himself. When he refined the red rank astral treasure puppet, he had an 80% success rate. However, when he refined the higher grade, the success rate would plummet. There were no shortcuts on the path of refining. There was only refining and refining. The more proficient he was, the lower the chances of mistakes. The more he refined, the greater the improvement of the flame of rebirth, and the stronger his ability to control fire. Just like cultivation, this was a path. Step by step, he would gain more and more. He went into seclusion again. After handing over all the astral treasure puppets to Qian Bujin, Lin Feng let go of them. Don't use people you don't trust. In the first auction, Qian Bujin had already proven his ability. Therefore, he could rest assured and give him full control. After all, when it came to auctioning, he was still an outsider. It was not the right way for an outsider to guide an expert. To him, instead of wasting time on these pointless things, it would be more worthwhile to refine more and cultivate more. Just like before, when he was managing the kingdom of Maru, and then the southern region, he handed them over to people he trusted. Everyone had their own strength, and what he was good at was cultivation, refining, and fighting. Understanding himself was more important than understanding others, because this was related to the path he should take in the future. To him, this was the most correct path, the most crucial one. Chapter 1449. There were only 2 words to describe it: madness. The astral treasure, Qi, appeared, soundless, like a gale passing by, nevertheless blowing through every heavenly spirit saint-level powerhouse. In a month's time, not only had his name spread throughout the entire Yen imperial city, he had also spread to the entire sorcerer realm. Everyone knew about him. Every 3 days, the northern corner auction house would have an auction for the astral treasure Qi. The number of items being auctioned was not too high nor too low. There were always 100 items. Qian Bujin's calculations were very accurate. The astral treasure Qi's normal price was indeed between 140,000 shaman coins to 150,000 shaman coins. Despite the fact that the little trick of raising the price the first time had made the astral treasure puppet exceptionally precious, and even more because of the people's pursuit, it had continued for 3 consecutive auctions. However, starting from the 4th auction, the price of the astral treasure puppet returned to normal. Among the 100 astral treasure puppets, the highest price was only 180,000 wizard coins, and the lowest price was only 138,000 wizard coins, even falling below the lowest price of 140,000 wizard coins. In the end, the 4th auction ended with an average price of 156,000. The 5th round, 152,000. The 6th round, 149,500. The 7th round, 147,000. In the 8th round, 145,800 gold coins. It continued to decrease. By the 10th match, the astral treasure puppet's average price finally fell below 145,000. So far, there was no more news. It can't be. Isn't the astral treasure puppet auctioned once every 3 days? It's already been 7 days. How is there not even the slightest bit of news? I hear they were sold out of stock. That lucky fellow obtained a total of 1,000 astral treasure puppets, and they have already all been sold out, without a single one remaining. Are you serious? Don't try to fool me. I'm still waiting for the discount to buy it. All of you don't know the inside story and are talking nonsense. What kind of ancient treasure is this? This is obviously the work of a refiner. Don't be ridiculous. How could an artificer refine a heaven-tier treasure? It's unrealistic. Unrealistic does not represent impossible. Let me tell you, the Union of Artificers has already studied the astral treasure puppet, analyzing many kinds of materials, including the three main materials: extreme fire silkworm, divine beast essence blood, and heavenly ya crystal. Now you know why the extreme fire silkworm and divine beast essence blood were sold without a single item remaining. Rumors kept spreading. Indeed, just as Lin Feng anticipated, the origin of the astral treasure puppet in the end could not be concealed. As a tool refinement master, he naturally was very clear about the way of tool refinement. Regardless of whether it was an Earth-rank astral treasure or a Heaven-rank astral treasure, a top-notch tool refinement master could analyze what its raw materials were and even how it was refined. Perhaps it was not necessarily 100% accurate, but exceeding 80% accuracy was not a problem. Especially the astral treasure puppet, which was the only Heaven-rank postnatal treasure in the Douling world. It was even more eye-catching. The Union of Artificers formed a team of 100 top-notch tool refinement masters to analyze and research the astral treasure puppet. The size of the lineup could even be said to exhaust all of their strength, because this represented a new era for weapon refiners. Refining heaven-grade treasures. North City. The astral treasure puppet suddenly flared with red fire, unexpected. Countless saint-level experts from the heavenly spirit realm were attracted to enter. The North City became the focus of Yen Imperial City overnight, completely overshadowing the other three major cities. Now that Yen Imperial City was mentioned, the first thing that came to everyone's mind was North City. As the saying went, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs ascend to heaven. The Bayou Auction House was directly promoted to become the largest auction house in Yen Imperial City. There was no other auction house. It even overshadowed the limelight of the Netherworld and the Lulon Kingdom, becoming the largest auction house in the heavenly spirit realm. Qian Bujin was even more proud of his success. He had earned enough popularity and attention. Of course, the profits from the auction house's popularity were not small. However, this popular man was anxiously waiting. His head was covered in sweat as he sat in the guest hall of the Royal Lotus Garden. He drank cup after cup of tea, occasionally looking into the hall. Qian Bujin had already waited for a full 3 days and 3 nights. He had already put aside the matter of the auction house and handed it over to his subordinates to follow up. Right now, Lin Feng was his god of wealth, the king of the universe. Qian Bujin was a smart man. He was very clear about the significance of Lin Feng and the astral treasure puppet to him. Right now, although his chickens and dogs had ascended to heaven, it was not stable. Without the astral treasure puppet, perhaps the Bayou Auction House could still remain as the #1 auction house in Yen Imperial City. However, it was impossible for it to be as popular as it was now, topping the other 3 major imperial cities. Chief Steward Qian need not worry. Zi Yao slightly smiled. Ha ha, madam, no rush, no rush. Qian Bujin forced a smile, the fat on his face squeezed together. Normally, every day at 5 p.m., Linda Gu always leaves seclusion to accompany me and mother to eat together. Zi Yao's beautiful eyes were clear and bright, twinkling with a faint luster. This time, the abnormality has not appeared for 3 consecutive days. Linda Gu must have had a new comprehension, which is why he was delayed. Qian Bujin's eyes flashed with a radiant light and he repeatedly nodded. This little one understands. Good comprehension, very good. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Qian Bujin, and Zi Yao slightly smiled. She could understand Qian Bujin's anxiousness. After all, the Bayou Auction House's puppet auction had already stopped for 7 days. Currently, the northern city was in a state of turmoil. Everyone was discussing, but she actually was very clear that it was precisely because the 1,000 heaven-rank red-grade astral treasure puppets had already been completely sold. Although Qianbujin had heaven-rank orange-grade and even yellow-grade astral treasure puppets on him, however, from the perspective of a merchant, it was still not the time to release them. First low and then high, that was where the greatest profit lay. In reality, it was indeed as Zi Yao had predicted. The one who understood Lin Feng the most was none other than the person at his side, none other than the person at his bedside. Refining day and night for a month, Lin Feng had not only obtained countless astral treasure puppets, he had even raised the flames of rebirth from the 84th layer to the 87th layer, surpassing the flames of devouring by a full 4 layers. As for the success rate of the refinement, there was no need to say anything more. Even more proficient, the control he had over it could be done as he pleased. After all, the area where the astral treasure puppet's greatest failure rate was the three-dimensional fire, which was to grasp and fuse 3 different kinds of materials. Not only was there a requirement for controlling the fire, there was an even higher requirement for the refiner's senses. This not only required talent, but also required experience and practice over and over again. It was not something that could be accomplished by relying on a mental simulation, because each time, even if the amount of materials was completely the same, there would be slight differences. And with just a slight difference, the control of the three-dimensional fire would completely change. The refinement of heaven-rank treasures was far more difficult than earth-rank treasures. Even with Lin Feng's strength, he had spent an entire month's time to slowly comprehend from practice and failure. Now, it was finally time for him to comprehend. Boom! Boom! The flames were burning, but Lin Feng stood there motionlessly. This standard posture had already lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Just like Zi Yao said, Lin Feng was now deeply comprehending. After thousands of refinements, and comprehension, the astral treasure puppet's Tao of weapon refinement had already entered his heart. It was not a star technique but a mystery. That was the biggest difference between heaven rank and earth rank weapon refinement. The difference between star techniques and mysteries. One was the basic ability that one controlled, while the other had the power of heaven and earth, the energy of the starry sky, and the existence of the Tao of constellations. The refinement of the astral treasure puppet was mixed with the drive of the Tao of constellations, resulting in a higher success rate. It was precisely because it was a special kind of mystery in itself. Lin Feng was no stranger to the comprehension of mysteries. Beginner, master, step by step. When one really went deep into the mysteries, understood its essence, and sensed its core, it would be true comprehension. Ordinary mysteries would be given the Tao of constellations after a deep comprehension, and their power would be stronger and more terrifying. What would happen if one comprehended the mysteries of the astral treasure puppet deeply? Whoosh! Lin Feng's surroundings started to glow. It was the rich Tao of constellations, the profound essence of mysteries, and the most mysterious power in heaven and earth. The energy of the starry sky had descended. I understand now. Lin Feng muttered to himself softly, like a person who had opened his eyes from a deep sleep. That was a feeling of enlightenment, a kind of joy that came from the heart. It was as if a door had been opened, connecting to the bridge between heaven and earth. Everything was completely connected. The flames of rebirth burned fiercely, and at this moment, it seemed to be changing along with Lin Feng's transformation. The 87th layer of the flames of rebirth moved according to his will, and the materials in Lin Feng's hands instantly appeared. The heavenly Ya crystal, extreme fire silkworm, and even the divine beast essence blood were shining. In a split second, the flames of rebirth poured in. Lin Feng moved with ease, and at this moment, he was completely different from before. Confidence, indifference, as he moved with ease. Sizzle, a familiar tearing sound could be heard. It was as if the space had been torn apart. The 3 main materials kept colliding and mixing, pulling each other, and with the center as the axis, they formed a continuous flame. The power of heaven and earth poured in, and under the gaze of Lin Feng's shining eyes, it changed the flame and the three materials. The flames of rebirth, like a pair of invisible hands, ruled over everything. Even at the last step of refinement, Lin Feng's expression was still so relaxed. It felt very special. Combine! The light in his eyes flashed, and Lin Feng calmly shouted. The flames of rebirth glowed, and the appearance of the three-dimensional flame perfectly fused the three main materials. Lin Feng's hands moved, moving the profound essence of mystery. The moment he made a move, it was clear whether it was real or not. It was completely different from the feeling of success before. Pung! The perfect condensation was clear and natural. Before, it was like accumulating time and time again, burning and finally reaching a climax. But now, it seemed like he was only doing a very ordinary thing from head to toe. It was natural and natural. This was an upgrade, the biggest change. Hua! A bright blue light flashed, and a brand new astral treasure puppet appeared. Grade: Heaven rank blue level. Unceasing refinement. The success rate of refining the astral treasure puppet had increased by a large margin. Previously, the success rate of refining the heaven rank blue level only increased from 5% to 10%, but now it could be refined very easily. Looking at the blue-grade astral treasure puppet in front of him, Lin Feng smiled calmly. The feeling was very clear. The current him, even if he refined 10 or 100 heaven-rank blue-grade astral treasure puppets, he would not fail even once, because the mystery of refining the astral treasure puppet had already entered a new level. 5 billion. Lin Feng's eyes shone and the corner of his mouth rose. Before, he did not have the slightest confidence, but now he was full of confidence. Chapter 1450. Pa. A blue light flashed. Hua. A familiar rhythm, a feeling of energy appeared in front of him. Lin Feng's eyes slightly brightened. Heaven rank blue level, pyrolite. The 100th item. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. For the current him, refining heaven rank blue level, pyrolite, would no longer have any mistakes. A perfect refining success rate of 100%. This was the comprehension of the Tao. His understanding of the mysteries had reached a new level, Saint King level. Unfortunately, it ends here. Lin Feng lightly pondered, his eyes sparkling. Complete comprehension of the mysteries was actually similar to the battle mysteries. Although the success rate was 100%, there was a certain limit to the power. If it was to refine pyrolite, it would be the highest grade that could be refined, heaven rank blue level. Divine beast blood essence at the peak of the saint level, no matter how perfect the refining is, it can't break through the blue level limit. To reach the heaven rank indigo level, or even higher grade pyrolite, the divine beast blood essence must be of the Saint King level. And when the time comes to refine it, the divine beast summoned by the astral treasure pyrolite would most likely be a Saint King level divine beast. Lin Feng's heart trembled. He felt the light of the path after refining the astral treasure pyrolite, but he also felt a deep pressure. Because he was very clear that with his current understanding of refining the astral treasure pyrolite and his mastery of the mysteries, if he wanted to refine the Saint King level pyrolite, the success rate would definitely not exceed 1%. This not only required higher grade materials, the most important thing was the ability to control fire, the strength of the flames, and the degree of understanding of the mysteries. He had not reached that level yet. Including the rebirth flame, he was still lacking a bit. Right now, the heaven rank blue level pyrolite was already the limit he could reach. However, it was enough for the time being. Let's talk about the future later. Even if I refine the heaven rank indigo level pyrolite, can I summon a Saint King level divine beast? And to me, what's the use of a Saint King level divine beast? Lin Feng's eyes turned cold. He was very clear about this. A Saint King level chi, might seem attractive, but that was only seemingly. In reality, that was not the case. To the current him, the value of the astral treasure puppet's existence was to obtain enough shaman coins. Since that was the case, it was already enough to refine the heaven-rank blue-grade puppets in batches. A peak Saint grade god beast blood essence was much easier to find than a Saint King grade one. Secondly, the human powerhouses of the southern region were all at the Saint level and not the Saint King level. In other words, the blue-level heaven-rank chi was the highest level they could reach, and also the greatest power they could unleash. Thirdly, the number of Saint-grade powerhouses was more than 100 times that of Saint King-grade powerhouses. The market for the heaven-rank blue-grade pyrolite was much higher than the heaven-rank indigo grade or even the heaven-rank purple grade. Perhaps the price of a single item might not be as high, but if it was sold in sufficient quantities, it could make up for it or even surpass it. Lotus Garden. Pacing back and forth, Qian Bujin was like an ant on a hot pan. The longer he delayed, the more dangerous it would be. Clenching his teeth, Qian Bujin's eyes were filled with uneasiness. If he delayed any longer, time would become more and more pressing. He would have no choice but to release the heaven-rank orange-grade pyrolite. To the buyer, this would definitely be a new surprise, but to the seller, it would be a loss. At that time, the value of the heaven-rank red-grade pyrolite would plummet. Seeing that it was almost 5 o'clock, Qian Bujin became more and more anxious. Sweat appeared on his forehead, and he wiped it with the back of his fat hand. The fat on his body seemed to be trembling. Ziyao watched from the side, but she was very patient. She naturally knew what Lin Feng was doing, so she did not need to worry. To Qian Bujin, this was an urgent matter, but to Lin Feng, it did not matter. Money was never something that Lin Feng valued. Although she knew that Lin Feng needed 5 billion Wu coins, which was a terrifying amount that everyone thought was impossible to achieve, she was never worried. This was because she believed in Lin Feng, believed in her Lindigo, and believed in her husband. This was a kind of blind faith. She was so certain. At this moment, Hua! A familiar aura descended without a sound. Ziyao's beautiful eyes flashed with a moving luster. She smiled as she looked at the person who came, and her heart was filled with warmth. Lin Feng had come out of seclusion. Qian Bujin greets sir. Bowing deeply, Qian Bujin was unable to contain his joy. Finally, seeing Lin Feng come out of seclusion, to Qian Bujin, it was as if he had escaped a calamity. The stone in his heart was finally lifted. If he lost the god of fortune in front of him, he would be beaten back to his original state very quickly. To him, this was equivalent to being beaten back to the mortal world from heaven. If you have something to say, say it, Lin Feng indifferently said. His gaze gazed at Ziyao, slightly smiling as he nodded, hinting for her to wait a moment. Ziyao gave an understanding smile. She gently stood beside Lin Feng like a clever little wife. It's like this, sir. Qian Bujin continuously spoke of this month's performance. His mouth was like a river, unceasing, especially when he spoke of the details of each auction. With the liveliness of the northern corner auction house and the popularity of the astral treasure Hades, he was even more radiant with joy. His eloquence was indeed exceptional. Even Ziyao's beautiful eyes twinkled as she listened, attracted. So, Lin Feng indifferently said. Qian Bujin was slightly taken aback. He cupped his hands. It's like this, little servant believes that sir can first sell all the heaven-rank red-grade Hades. Then slowly put in the heaven-rank orange-grade Hades, is not too late. Only this way can the profits, enough. Lin Feng raised his hand and directly cut him off. Qian Bujin opened his mouth, the words he wanted to say immediately stuck in his throat. There's no need to sell the heaven-rank red-grade Hades. Directly sell the heaven-rank orange-grade Hades. Lin Feng's expression was calm as he slowly said. Although his voice was calm, it was firm and resolute. not allowing half a doubt. A storage ring was immediately thrown over. Qian Bujin hurriedly caught it. Here are 200 heaven-rank orange-grade Hades. In addition to your original 100, help me sell 300 at once. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. One time. Qian Bujin said in shock, the fat on his face twitching. His eyes rolled around, his complexion alternating between green and white. He was calculating how much money he would lose. Selling 300 at once and selling 100 at 3 times, the value of the profit would be greatly different. Lin Feng saw the changes in his expression, and he understood in his heart. How could he not know? But right now, this little bit of money was not important to him. What was important was time. He wanted to quickly raise 5 billion Wu coins, restart the Netherworld ship, wake up Toto, and then save his father. He had been waiting for this wish in his heart for too long. Now that he had enough power, he did not want to wait any longer, even if it was just 1 or 2 days. Go. After this auction, I will give you the next batch of heaven-rank yellow-grade Hades, Lin Feng said indifferently. His calm voice caused Qian Bujin to be stunned. He did not react in time. Heaven-rank yellow-grade? Are you kidding? Do it well, and you will be rewarded. Lin Feng's eyes shone. I don't mind telling you. For the next few auctions, finish them quickly. After the heaven-rank yellow grade, immediately sell the heaven-rank green grade, and then the heaven-rank blue grade Hades, which can summon peak saint grade divine beasts. I want you to help me earn 5 billion Wu coins. His voice was solemn, and it echoed in the room. His words made Qian Bujin's eyes widen, as if he was suffocating. Earning 180 million Wu coins in 10 auctions was already shocking enough. However, in Lin Feng's words, this was just a fraction. 5 billion Wu coins. Heaven-rank blue-grade Hades, crazy. He was really crazy. Qian Bujin's face was blank, as if he had turned to stone. King of Hell's Northern Palace. Has the astral treasure Hades auction stopped? King of Hell's Northern said. There has already been no activity for 7 days. Li Chan said sternly. Oh. King of Hell's Northern's golden eyes flashed, as if he was thinking about something. Master, are you worried that the craze will fade? Li Chan slowly said. King of Hell's Northern shook his head. It was originally a fake prosperity. How could it fade or not be that important? The astral treasure Hades auction will end sooner or later. The popularity and fame gathered now is but a passing cloud. After seeing more, it will naturally fade. Li Chan slightly smiled. But what if the astral treasure Hades auction can continue? King of Hell's Northern's eyes flashed. Is that possible? Li Chan calmly smiled. Disciple does not know, but the affairs of the world are impermanent. Who can predict it? That black-clothed figure appeared in his mind. Li Chan softly said, Perhaps only one person can tell you this answer with certainty, Master. The owner of the Hades. King of Hell's Northern murmured. Li Chan nodded. Disciple is actually very curious. Why did Master not go investigate this time? King of Hell's Northern indifferently said, What use is there in investigating? If that person does not want us to know his identity, doing this will only infuriate him. As far as my northern city is concerned, there are no benefits. Li Chan suddenly smiled. Master is wise. King of Hell's Northern's white hair fluttered. He gazed at Li Chan with a smile. It seems, Chan you know more than Master. I know a little. Li Chan smiled. She gazed at King of Hell's Northern and softly said, Master, if you want to know, how can this matter be hidden from you? Even if that Qian Bujin had the courage as big as the sky, he would not dare be impudent. However, there is something Master can be at ease about. The astral treasure Hades auction will not end for the time being. I believe very quickly, there will be a batch of even higher grade astral treasure Hades. Is that so? King of Hell's Northern's eyes slightly moved. The two master and disciples' eyes met, yet they knowingly smiled. Bang! Heavy news descended. Just as Li Chan and King of Hell's Northern were speaking in riddles, the Northern Territory Auction House once again had a sensational piece of news. 3 days later, a grand auction of astral treasure Hades would be held. The items auctioned this time were no longer heaven rank red grade, nor were there 100 pieces. Everything was toppled in this instant, as if a new chapter had been opened. The previous 10 auctions that had stirred people's hearts were merely a warm-up. Now, no one would pay attention to them. That was because the new auction was too shocking. The heaven rank orange grade astral treasure Hades was auctioned in a total of 300 pieces. Yen Imperial City was completely shaken. Chapter 1451. Have you heard? They are auctioning 300 heaven rank orange grade puppets. It's true, this is crazy. After resting for 7 days, I thought all the puppets were sold out. Who would have thought that the next auction would be even more shocking? Quick, 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 there are only 3 days left. Hurry up and raise money. This auction of 300 puppets is probably the last one. Moreover, the quality is even better this time. If you miss it, you will regret it for life. What? The Northern Corner Auction House is holding another auction? F***ck, how can I make it in 3 days? I still haven't gotten the Yama Imperial City's identity token. No, let's go and grab the entry pass first. I didn't get enough last time, I will definitely grab a few more this time. In less than 2 hours, the news spread throughout the 3 imperial cities. All the Saint Realm experts were paying close attention to the news. After all, the astral treasure puppets had too many strong points. Not only were they compatible, but they were also easier to control. Most importantly, the astral treasure puppets were compatible with more than one treasure. Even cultivators who had just stepped into the Saint Realm could merge with more than one treasure. Those who had already bought an astral treasure puppet and did not lack money had their eyes shining brightly. Strength, no one would complain about having too much. Naturally, the stronger the better. The astral treasure puppet's strength was genuine, especially to Heavenly God Realm experts who specialized in long-range attacks. Their abilities complemented each other. In fact, not only the Heavenly Spirit Realm experts were paying close attention to this matter, even the Sorcerer Tribe's experts were paying close attention to this matter. Among the 1,000 astral treasure puppets sold in 10 auctions, a small portion fell into the hands of the Sorcerer Tribe's experts, enriching the Sorcerer Tribe's army. After all, each astral treasure puppet represented a Saint Realm expert. Moreover, they were Saint Realm experts who had an immortal body. In a one-on-one battle, the astral treasure puppet's effect was not obvious, but in a war, 10 to 100 astral treasure puppets would show their advantage when there were more of them. Especially in a battle against the demonic beast race, the divine beast's aura could kill in all directions, faintly having a restraining effect. Manifest strength. Ancestral Sorcerer Hall. Go, buy as many as you can within the budget. Shi Juin's gaze was piercing cold. Yes, Sorcerer Sovereign. Tian Wu cupped his fists and said. Spending so many Wu coins just to buy some heaven-grade afterworld treasures, is it worth it? Huda hesitated for a moment, then asked. Worth it. Shi Juin answered without hesitation. But, Huda wanted to say more, but Shi Juin cut her off mercilessly. I'm the Witch Emperor now, don't waste my breath. A sharp light glinted in Shi Juin's eyes as he looked at Hutu. The corner of his lips curled into a cold sneer as he said, You, go to the Sorcerer Tribes immediately, I want. Collect military taxes. What? Huda's expression changed drastically, becoming extremely unsightly. However, the Sorcerer Tribe valued hierarchy the most. Since Shi Juin was appointed by Sorcerer Emperor Jiang himself, even if he was only a temporary Sorcerer Emperor, He was still a sorcerer emperor, and the order of the shaman emperor was an imperial edict. Yes. Huda cupped her fists and left with an unsightly expression. Although Huang Xiaolong knew that Shi Jiuyin was doing this on purpose, forcing him to do such a thankless task, Huang Xiaolong didn't care. However, as a Magus king and Di Zhang's sworn brother, how could he go against Shi Jiuyin? Doing so was tantamount to tearing down Di Zhang's reputation. Having participated in the previous 10 auctions, Qian Bujin was familiar with the process. On top of that, the astral treasure puppet's name had already shaken the sorcerer tribe's territory, including the North City. With the North Corner auction house's reputation, there was no need to mobilize or advertise. Countless Saint Realm experts had already gathered in the North City. For a time, the North City's liveliness surpassed the entire sorcerer tribe's territory. A grand occasion. Everyone discussed with one another. Not only were they discussing the astral treasure puppet, they were even discussing its mystery and the powerhouse behind it. Of course, no one knew. The auction started in a lukewarm manner. Although the auction seemed ordinary, it was in fact turbulent. After the warm-up from the previous 10 auctions, the auction for the orange-grade heaven puppet this time was even more intense. The first heaven puppet's price exceeded 1 million sorcerer coins without any hesitation. In the end, it was sold for 2 million sorcerer coins after a fierce bidding war. 3 times. This was the basic price of a heaven puppet. The starting price of a heaven puppet's red treasure was 100,000 sorcerer coins, orange-grade treasure was 300,000 sorcerer coins, and yellow-grade treasure was 1 million sorcerer coins. Compared to the first auction for the red and orange-grade heaven puppets, it was about 3 times the price. However, this time there was no support. After all, the price of the heaven puppet was already publicly known. It was too hot. It was so hot that it not only made people talk about it, but also peeled it layer by layer for a complete analysis, including the heaven puppet's materials, production, functions, and so on. As long as one was willing to find it, there were stacks and stacks of information about the heaven puppet. If one wanted to fool those rich people, there was only one word: no way. However, the auction for the first heaven puppet always had a great meaning. It included showing off one's wealth, dignity, competition, and other factors. A high price was inevitable. The auction reached climax one after another. 300 astral treasure puppets were simply not enough for the fierce wolves fighting over them. In less than 6 hours, the 300 astral treasure puppets were sold out. They were sold for an average price of 580,000 sorcerer coins. Imperial Garden. Here is 170 million sorcerer coins, my lord. Qian Bujin respectfully handed over the storage ring with both hands. Oh. Lin Feng received it with a calm expression. He responded indifferently, without any change in his expression. When money reached a certain amount, it was merely a number. It was nothing to him. However, the price of the auction was higher than he had expected by several tens of millions. The amount of the auction this time was almost the same as the total amount of the previous 10 auctions. It was indeed quite good. You didn't deduct the service fee? Lin Feng calculated the average price and suddenly looked at Qian Bujin curiously. My lord, you are our bread and butter. How would we dare to charge you a service fee? Qian Bujin smiled and flattered. Besides, we have already charged you a lot in the previous 10 auctions. If we charge you again, we will be too greedy. We only hope that my lord will take care of us in the future. This little one's wish is enough. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He could not help but smile indifferently. It was his seclusion last time that had scared Qian Bujin. Now, he did not even dare to charge a service fee. He did not care about this little bit of money. However, to the northern corner auction house, it was enough to earn. Without mentioning the income from the previous 10 auctions, just the entrance fee for each auction was already quite shocking. Not to mention the fame and prestige that the astral treasure puppet brought to the northern corner auction house. Just as Qian Bujin said, charging him again would indeed be too greedy. Continue. Do well. There will be no shortage of benefits for you. Lin Feng's gaze was light. He threw out the 2 rings in his hand. There are 200 yellow grade and green grade items here. Sell them all in 10 days. Afterwards, help me advertise the last batch, Heaven Rank Blue Grade Puppet. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Perhaps to Qian Bujin, each sum was a large sum. However, to him, the real big prize was the Heaven Rank Blue Grade Puppet. How much it could be sold for was the key. Before one wave subsided, another wave rose. This northern corner auction house's Heaven Rank Orange Grade Puppet had just been sold. Another batch of advertisements began. Heaven Rank Yellow Grade Puppet, to be sold in 3 days. This crazy action made all the heavenly spirit saints go crazy. The saints who had previously spent a large sum to buy the Heaven Rank Orange Grade Puppet cursed each and every one of them, but they were once again tricked. Those with higher grades naturally pursued higher grades. Many martial artists did not lack money at all, but they did not have a good Heaven Rank treasure to complement them. After all, if a saint wanted to forcibly refine an innate Heaven Rank treasure, the difficulty was not just high. Spontaneous compatibility was even rarer. However, the astral treasure puppet did not have this concern at all. This point was very important. Another 200. Heavens, just how many does this Heaven Rank astral treasure puppet have? Who knows? Perhaps there is someone manipulating everything behind the scenes. Calculating 11 auctions, how many shaman coins has the puppet already collected? At the very least, it's over 100 million. No, it's several hundred million. Everyone was discussing spiritedly. Nevertheless, the astral treasure puppet's appearance was too fast, too urgent, too violent. People were easily envious, and the astral treasure puppet was also like this. On one side, the saints were raising money to buy 1 or 2 items. On the other side, the astral treasure puppet's crazy money-making actions nevertheless attracted the attention of some people. Especially the Northern Hell King. He had a bit of a headache. After all, the amount of money involved was honestly too large for the martial artist. The disturbance caused by the astral treasure puppet was even more violent than he had imagined. I say, Northern Hell King, for you to swallow so much profit by yourself, isn't this too unfriendly? The Western Hell King smiled. That is to say, we 4 Hell Kings are on the same side. You are so selfish, eating so much meat for yourself, yet we are not even allowed to drink soup. Isn't this too heartless? The Eastern Hell King's eyes were cold. The Southern Hell King wore martial clothes, standing tall. Although he did not say anything, his eyes carried a cold light. What should come, would come sooner or later. Involving over 100 million in profit, even the 4 Hell Kings could not sit still. After all, the rise of the Northern Hell King was stepping on the faces of the Eastern, Southern, and Western Hell Kings. The 4 Hell Kings were originally not on good terms, so how could they allow the Northern Hell King to do as he pleased? If they did not make a move, sooner or later, the Yen Imperial City would become the sole ruler of the Northern Hell King. At that time, it would be too late to change anything. If I say that I don't know, you won't believe me, right? The Northern Hell King sighed. He also knew that this calamity would come sooner or later, but he did not expect it to be so soon. Ah! The Eastern Hell King laughed heartily, his eyes sparkling. I say, Northern Hell King, do you take us for fools? The smile on the Western Hell King's face became cold, and he said in a low voice, We don't ask for much. You can take all the profits, and we will not take advantage of you. But the astral treasure puppet auction must be held in the Western, Eastern, and Southern cities separately, or alternately, or everyone can share it equally. I want to know who is behind the astral treasure puppet. The Southern Hell King said in a low voice. The three great Hell Kings were aggressive. In terms of strength, the Northern Hell King was inferior to the Southern Hell King. In terms of power, he was also inferior to the Western Hell King. Now that the three great Hell Kings were forcing him to abdicate, it was a huge problem for the Northern Hell King. Frowning, the Northern Hell King put his hands behind his back, his golden eyes shining as he said slowly, "I understand. You can go back first. I will give you an explanation in 10 days. Chapter 1452. On one side, the astral treasure puppets were being sold in full swing. On the other side, Lin Feng was also refining unhurriedly. Now that the purchase had come to an end, not just in Yen Imperial City, even in the Underworld and Lulan Kingdom, all the divine beast blood essences and extreme fire silkworms had been used up. But to Lin Feng, it was just a drop in the bucket. In a short month, he had completed all the puppet. The materials were too little. More accurately, these materials were too rare. Divine beast blood essences were already rare, but extreme fire silkworms were even rarer. They could only be found in hot places. Fortunately, extreme fire silkworms were not like divine beast blood essences. They had very few uses, so after tens of thousands of years, they had accumulated quite a lot. Even so, they were all sold in one go. The refinement was too fast, too fast. Hum! Hum! The flames of rebirth shone, and Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The flames in his hands showed a bold color, like a dancing fire snake. Light flashed in his hands, but there was no sign of the extreme fire silkworm. Instead, it was replaced by another main material. Lin Feng's heart was calm. The flames in his hands fell, but the extreme fire silkworm did not fuse with them. He had failed at the last step. Pah! The flames in Lin Feng's hands suddenly dimmed and disappeared. As expected, it's not that easy, Lin Feng said softly, not minding it. The experiment had already lasted for 4 hours. All the main materials that could replace the extreme fire silkworm had been tested, and the first batch of materials was eliminated. If it was before, he would only be imagining it. But now, he had put it into action. There was no material that could not be replaced. As a weapon refiner, he understood the profound mysteries of the astral treasure puppets very well. Mysteries were only the manifestation of Tao, an extension of it. Since that was the case, as long as it could manifest the existence of Tao, it was like a painting. It did not need to be exactly the same. As long as it could manifest the concept in the painting, then it was a mystery. This was the Tao of the constellations. It was that simple. The second round. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. The extreme fire silkworm test was only the first step. If it could be replaced, then the divine beast blood essences could be replaced as well. While Lin Feng was in seclusion to comprehend the artifact, the auction started again. The heaven-rank yellow-grade astral treasure lay, no less than 200 items were auctioned, appearing with a bang under everyone's attention. The higher the grade, the more attention it would attract. Just the first heaven-rank, yellow-rank, pyrrolite, had a sky-high price of 7 million, starting the auction with a climax. The number of 200 was even less than before. But there were even more wolves. Previously, those powerhouses that were not interested in the heaven-rank red-grade astral treasure, Qi, also gathered one after another, raking in this auction. In the end, the 200 heaven-rank yellow-grade thistles were sold at an average price of 1,850,000 Wu coins. The total price was 370 million Wu coins, which exceeded the total price of the red-grade and orange-grade thistles. This was only the beginning. Just as the experts' joy subsided, another wave of excitement surged forth. F***CK, are they trying to kill me? That is to say, the yellow rank of the heaven stage just ended, and now they are selling the green rank of the heaven stage, pyrrolite. How deep is this water? F***CK, Could it be that, after selling the green heaven rank, they will sell the blue heaven rank too? One wave after another. 3 days, another 3 days. The North City was already packed to the brim. The experts of the underworld and the Lulon Kingdom all rushed over. The Wu coins here were no longer Wu coins. While the experts were cursing, they were frantically raising money to buy the astral treasure pyrolite. As the grade increased, more and more cultivators were tempted. After all, the green heaven rank pyrolite summoned an undying divine beast that was already at the saint rank. Its strength was not ordinary. King Yama Northern Palace. 15 billion. King Yama Eastern's eyes were bloodshot, and his voice was trembling. King Yama Northern, this move of yours is too ruthless. King Yama Western could not control his emotions, and anger flashed across his face. Speak. King Yama Southern's voice was cold, and his aura was Pangran. Everyone, please calm down. Since I promised you 10 days, I will not break my promise. King Yama Northern's golden eyes were burning. Although he was at a disadvantage, he was neither servile nor overbearing as he faced the 3 kings of hell. Although he was slightly nervous, he knew he had no way out. What a good 10 days. King Yama Eastern gritted his teeth and nodded. 10 days later, I'm afraid the astral treasure pyrolite will be sold out. King Yama Western said coldly, Don't think we don't know that the Northern Territory Auction House has already released a new auction. 3 days later, the blue heaven rank pyrolite will be sold. At that time, I'm afraid there won't even be any leftovers left. King Yama Northern's eyes were deep. Whether you believe it or not, this is not my intention. As for the hymn you are looking for, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you. Bang! King Yama Southern's aura suddenly bloomed, and a terrifying power shot out. Among the 4 kings of hell, the strongest was King Yama Southern. His fists were shining with cold light, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Although they were the 4 kings of hell, it did not mean they were united. This was the heavenly spirit. The so-called Power Alliance was just a false title, a combination of interests. When there was a huge conflict of interests, there was only one method left: fight. Bang! Bang! King Yama Eastern and King Yama Western were not to be outdone. They stood behind King Yama Southern. They had already said what they needed to say. Since King Yama Northern insisted, they would not watch as King Yama Northern nibbled away at their territory. If it did not concern them, they could not care less. But if it concerned them, how could they stay out of it? However, King Yama Northern still had his hands behind his back in the face of the 3 powerful experts' aggression. His expression was calm, as if he was already prepared. His calm and composed expression caused the 3 kings of hell's eyes to flicker. Suddenly, they seemed to sense something, and their expressions changed. What are you doing? King Yama Southern's voice was like the anger of the heavens. In an instant, the killing intent on King Yama Southern's body disappeared. His eyes were filled with fear, and he relaxed his fists. King Yama Eastern and King Yama Western's chests heaved up and down when they heard the voice. Their fighting spirit had already disappeared. They did not dare to act rashly. They looked at the back of the main hall with frightened eyes. An ordinary-looking figure walked out, but he had an indescribable temperament. King Yama, do you have any respect for me? King Yama's eyes flashed. His voice was cold, and there was a hint of anger in it. However, if a tiger did not show its might, everyone would forget his identity. Although Sacred Master Cloud Spear did not care about politics, his strength would not change at all. Even King Yama Southern, who was the strongest among them, did not dare to move, let alone King Yama Eastern and King Yama Western. With Sacred Master Cloud Spear's strength, it was easy for him to fight against 3 of them. Greetings, King Yama. The 4 kings of hell bowed respectfully. Go back, Sacred Master Cloud Spear said coldly. He was very dignified. Don't let others see you as a joke. If anyone dares to act rashly, Don't blame me for being merciless." His calm words caused King Yama Southern, King Yama Eastern, and King Yama Western's faces to turn ashen. However, they did not dare to disobey. "Yes, King Yama." The three powerful experts retreated unwillingly. The rules of Heaven Spirit and the rules of the fighting spirit world would always be like this. Whoever had the biggest fist would be the boss. The strong would decide everything. Seeing the three kings of Hell leave, King Yama Northern sighed deeply. Even Sacred Master Cloud Spear's eyes flashed. "He has gone too far," King Yama Northern said in a low voice. "Go and stop the last auction." Sacred Master Cloud Spear said in a deep voice, 1 billion gold coins is already beyond what we can afford. If this batch of heaven-ranked blue-class slayers were to leak out, it would cause a huge commotion. It would be a disaster for both him and Yen Imperial City. "I know what to do, King Yama," King Yama Northern said seriously. Cancelled. The shocking blue-rank heaven-rank Pyrolite auction was forcefully cancelled. No matter how bold Qianbujin was, he would not dare to go against King Yama Northern's orders. Lin Feng might be his god of wealth, but above him was the true king who controlled the entire North City. If he dared to go against King Yama Northern, he would not be able to pay for it even if he had several lives. Sighs could be heard everywhere. After all, the announcement had already been made and everyone was looking forward to it. There was no need to explain the value of the Heaven Stage Blue Class Ho. It was an immortal peak Saint Class Divine Beast. If an ordinary Saint Class expert had a peak Saint Class Divine Beast, what would happen? Their strength would increase by more than 10 times or even 100 times. Not to mention, there was a high possibility that the peak Saint Class Divine Beast would break through. Once it broke through to the Saint King class, it would be even more terrifying. After all, it was no secret that the astral treasure Ho could cultivate and break through. In the first batch of Heaven Stage Red class Ho cultivators, many divine beasts had already broken through to the next level. Although it was rare, it did not mean that they did not exist. Like normal martial artists, the astral treasure puppets divine beast could cultivate, could advance. What's going on? I don't know. Is someone messing with us? Sigh, all of you are still in the dark. You don't know, right? It's too high profile. Why don't you go and calculate how many Wu coins this mysterious expert has earned by relying on the Ho? 1 billion. More than 1 billion Wu coins. I dare say that even the combined wealth of the three sovereigns would not be this amount. It's the same logic. Everyone was jittery. The sudden cancellation of the auction caused a huge commotion in the North City. However, the culprit was still in seclusion at this moment. I see. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Experiment after experiment, practice after practice, he finally got results. The flame in his hand suddenly flashed. Fire Cloud Ho and Fierce Beast Blood Essence complemented each other. There seemed to be an inexplicable compatibility between them, perfectly blending together. Complemented by the integration of the Tianya crystal. At this moment, under the burning of the rebirth flame, under the control of the constellation Tao, it had already reached the final step. Combine! Lin Feng's eyes flashed. But a shocking explosion filled with a violent aura completely removed the dregs. Extract the essence. The flame was vast, bringing out the changes in the color and feeling of the rebirth flame. In an instant, it was sublimated by another level. The 88th level. In front, the fog slowly dissipated, and a bright light flashed. The newly born Qi had been successfully refined. Chapter 1453. After countless experiments, he finally succeeded. To a weapon refiner, this was undoubtedly a kind of joy. It was definitely not inferior to the comprehension of a profound mystery. Lin Feng was the same. TSK, wait for the beast in the same cage. If the beast changes, then the cage outside must also change. Otherwise, the resonance and compatibility between the two will be broken. The extreme fire silkworm is gentle and complements the divine beast's blood essence. However, it can't suppress the ferocious beast's blood essence and vice versa. Indeed, I thought too simply before. Thinking in his heart, Lin Feng suddenly understood. Countless failures piled up to success. The cost of the materials was at least tens of thousands of Wu coins. However, to the current him, this was nothing. As long as he understood the principle and grasped the trick, the refinement of the astral treasure puppet could start again. He would no longer be limited by the exhaustion of the extreme fire silkworm and divine beast's blood essence. As for the heavenly Ya crystal, this special material was a completely dead object. It was a jack of all trades in the refinement of the astral treasure puppet. There was no conflict. The immortal body originated from the indestructibility of the heavenly Ya crystal. With the heavenly Ya crystal as the body, the astral treasure puppet's true, main axis is an irreplaceable existence. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Lin Feng was very calm. Among the three main materials, the one he didn't lack the least was the heavenly Ya crystal that he obtained from the netherworld ship. Even if he wanted to refine higher-grade astral treasure puppets in the future, allowing divine beasts and ferocious beasts to reach the level of Saint King, the heavenly Ya crystal would also be of a higher level. This was a natural advantage. Furthermore, the ferocious beasts of the same level are stronger. The puppets, refined from the astral treasure puppet, are equivalent to ascending to a higher level in terms of combat power. However, the required soul power is the same. The quality has increased imperceptibly. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Actually, he didn't plan to sell a large amount of puppets, especially high-grade ones. He already had enough money. He only needed to wait for the last batch of blue-grade heaven-rank puppets to be sold. Together with the nearly 2 billion Wu coins he had accumulated before, he believed that breaking through 5 billion Wu coins wouldn't be a problem. The next step would be to raise the strength of the southern region's martial artists. Arming a large number of ferocious beast chi, even if it was the highest level heaven rank blue level chi, would be completely compatible with an ordinary saint rank expert. Based on an average of 2 chi ferocious beasts per person, there were approximately 300 or so martial saints in the southern region, and there were 600 chi peak martial saints. This was a force that could not be underestimated. The strength of the southern region would greatly increase by several levels. To him, as long as he had enough materials, it would only take him 6 days to refine 600 pieces of pyrolite if he could refine 100 pieces a day. It was very easy. Lin Feng calmly walked out. However, as soon as he came out of seclusion, he felt an unusual presence in the imperial garden. Lin Feng's eyes shone slightly, but his expression did not change. Different auras. The aura of a true expert. It was not someone else, but someone he was very familiar with. Hades North. Welcome, Hades North. Your presence brings light to the imperial garden. Lin Feng smiled as he walked over. He glanced at Zi Yao and then scanned the surroundings. Other than Hades North, there were no other martial artists. He vaguely understood what was going on. Hades North stood there proudly. His white hair fluttered in the wind, giving him a proud aura. His golden eyes shone with a strange light as he looked over. Lin Feng, you really hid your strength well. Hades North suddenly laughed, and the light in his eyes deepened. Lin Feng smiled. A straightforward person did not resort to insinuations. Since Hades North could find this place, he must know that Lin Feng was the owner of the chi. In fact, Lin Feng did not intend to hide it from Hades North. After all, Qian Bujin was just the manager of an auction house. Who was Hades North? If he wanted to know, would Qian Bujin dare not to tell him? However, sir, there is no harm in getting straight to the point. There is no need to be too polite between us. Lin Feng smiled and gazed at Hades North. Today, his strength was no less than Hades North's. He spoke with confidence. Although he called him Sir, this was only an honorific. That was all. A martial artist's status was determined by strength, not by honorifics. Hades North naturally understood this, which was why he had personally come. Otherwise, with his strength, he could have just summoned Lin Feng. In his heart, he had already treated Lin Feng as an equal. Hades North's golden eyes shone with a strange light. He said, Lin Feng, I want you to clearly answer a question of mine. Please speak, sir. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Hades North slowly opened his mouth and sternly said, The refinement of the heaven-rank astral treasure Qi, have you already grasped its secrets? Bullseye. Lin Feng was slightly startled. He had not expected Hades North to be so knowledgeable, to have such a deep understanding of the path of weapon refinement. What was a secret? He dared to say that more than 99% of weapon refiners did not know. The so-called heaven-rank astral treasure was actually a kind of secret. Even he himself had only learned about it after slowly comprehending and experimenting. However, Hades North's tone was so certain. It went without saying what it meant. Yes. Lin Feng hesitated slightly, but he still nodded. There was nothing to hide. Since he was speaking frankly, he did not want to hide anything from Hades North. Moreover, his intuition told him that Hades North had no ill intentions. Oh! Hades North's expression did not change. He slowly nodded, as if this answer was already within his expectations. His golden eyes looked at Lin Feng, and he said in a low voice, Do you know, you almost brought a fatal disaster upon yourself. Bang! Lin Feng was greatly shaken. Northern Corner Auction House. Blood flowed like a river, and corpses were everywhere. In the dead of night, when the door was closed, no one would have expected that the Northern Corner Auction House would be met with a bloody massacre. More than 100 black-clothed martial artists cleared the entire Northern Corner Auction House with lightning speed. Their methods were quite bloody. Their strength was even more terrifying. At this moment, the 100 black-clothed martial artists were gathered in a circle. The bloody air was suffocating. Among them, 2 black-clothed martial artists were in the center, just like everyone's leader. One of them grabbed a fat man's throat with one hand, as if he was grabbing a chicken. His gaze was as cold as the Grim Reaper's. Qian Bujin. At this moment, his complexion was pale. His eyes were dull, and there was still blood at the corner of his mouth. There was a terrifying wound on his chest. His chest had been forcefully torn open. He was no longer breathing. How is it? The slightly shorter black-clothed martial artist asked. We were a step too late. Someone erased his memory. The tall black-clothed martial artist said in a deep voice. It was as if he had nowhere to vent his anger. His skeletal right hand tightened and a kacha sound was heard. Qian Bujin immediately fell to the ground with a ping sound. His body was twisted in an extremely irregular shape and he was dead. Mission failed. Quickly return and report to the Lord. The short black-clothed martial artist's voice was cold. Damn it. The tall black-clothed martial artist's face was filled with anger. Extreme? Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. Yes. Do you know the 9,000th step of the path to heaven? Hades North's expression was serious. Lin Feng nodded. The Hades Emperor once told me that there were only 4 people in the Douling world who could pass the 9,000th step of the path to heaven. And I am the 5th. Hades North's golden eyes flashed. He said in a low voice, Even the 3 emperors could not pass the 9,000th step of the path to heaven. It is extremely difficult. Hades North looked at Lin Feng and said slowly, You were able to pass the path to heaven because of your strength and luck. But if I let you try again, what will the result be? Lin Feng shook his head. There is a 99% chance of failure. He knew his own strength very well. The reason he could pass the 9,000th step of the path to heaven that day was indeed due to luck. If he had not broken through by chance and become a sage king, it would have been difficult for him to pass the 9,000th step. That success could not be replicated. I don't mean to belittle you, Hades North said seriously. With your potential, it's only a matter of time before you break through the 9,000th step. However, every cultivator can only take the path to heaven once in their lifetime. The one who broke through the 9,000th step before you was him, Huang Jifu. 9,000th step. Huang Jifu. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He was shocked. He naturally knew what the 9,000th step meant. According to Cloud Spear Sacred Lord, it meant that there was a high chance of breaking through and becoming a Starry Sky realm expert. For example, which King Jiang, the founder of Heavenly Spirit. Now there was one more. He created Extreme. It is a force that cannot be underestimated in Heavenly Spirit. In the 3 imperial cities there are pinnacle powerhouses. Their identities are very mysterious. According to the concept of the human world, you can understand Extreme as an underground force. Their strength is not only in the 3 imperial cities, but also in the imperial capital. Their strength is unfathomable. The King of Hell North's voice was calm, but it sounded like thunder in everyone's ears. There were too many secrets hidden in his words. Lin Feng pursed his lips and nodded. Indeed, if Hades North didn't tell him, he would still be ignorant. Heavenly Spirit's forces covered the entire Do spirit world. There were 3 imperial cities in the Sorcerer Realm. In the boundless ocean there was also an imperial capital. Unlike the 3 imperial cities in the Sorcerer Realm, there was only one imperial capital. However, it was not weaker than the 3 imperial cities. That's true, Lin Feng said softly. Since Do Spirit is a neutral alliance, it naturally won't only exist in the Sorcerer Realm. It will definitely choose the place with the densest spiritual energy. The Sorcerer Realm has it, and so does the Monster Realm. Nodding, Lin Feng understood. Before the Sorcerer Realm and the Monster Realm arrived, the 8,000 neutral races were the natives of Do Spirit World. They were naturally spread across the entire region. The imperial capital was one, and Extremity was another. And now, according to King Yama of the North, Extremity had already begun to move. Their goal was him. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. Listening to a wise man's words was better than studying for 10 years. After hearing Hades North's words, he was really ambushed from all sides. He almost died. Because of this, he almost got killed. Chapter 1454. 1,850,000,000. This included all the money he got from the recent sale of the heaven-rank green clam. After deducting the purchase of materials, commission, and other expenses, he wasn't even halfway to the 5 billion mark. Lin Feng frowned as he took the storage ring from Ziyao. He felt conflicted and pained. Qian Bujin was implicated by him. That day, he didn't expect Ji to be so ruthless and direct. Treasures aroused the envy of others. Qian Bujin knew a secret that exceeded his own identity. The huge profits and the true terror of the clam had attracted Ji's attention. At first, the value of the clam wasn't noticed. However, with the appearance of yellow, green, and even blue clam, everything changed. This time, I've really troubled you. Lin Feng thanked him. First, he helped him erase a part of Qian Bujin's memories, and then came to inform him. He could feel his sincerity. If it wasn't for Yama North, Ji's experts would have come knocking on his door already. Perhaps with his strength, protecting himself would not be a problem. However, Ziyao and Ziyao's mother were still in the Imperial Garden. How could he stop the locust-like experts of Ji by himself? At that time, how could the word troublesome describe it? It's my duty. Yama North smiled and shook his head. This is also my fault. I didn't take it to heart at first. I didn't expect that in such a short period of time, the profits and benefits involved in the clam would reach such a terrifying level. If I had known, this matter wouldn't have gotten so out of hand. Yama North sighed. His eyes were filled with worry. There was no wall in the world that didn't have a crack. This matter seemed to have come to an end, but would it really end? It was still unknown. He knew how strong Ji's forces were. They were everywhere. Even as Yama North, he only knew a small part of it. Not to mention others, just the Yulong tea house. He asked Lin Feng to search for information because he knew Elian was an Ji expert. So, we can't sell the clam for now? Lin Feng frowned. Absolutely not. King Yama North raised a hand to stop him with a cold look in his eyes. Hui has already caused a huge earthquake in the Do spirit world, and the situation is on the verge of breaking out. Even the slightest movement will attract the attention of pinnacle beings. If you don't want to be a fugitive, then forget about Qi for a while. Earthquake. Lin Feng looked puzzled. It was merely an acquired treasure. Even if he sold a lot of it, it wouldn't change anything. Moreover, it had only been a little more than a month. How could, Lin Feng, you haven't been paying attention to the War of the Liches in a while, right? The King of the North's eyes shone. Lin Feng replied softly. Ever since he set his goal of earning 5 billion wizard coins, he had temporarily put aside the War of Liches and Demons. Come to think of it, he was indeed a little irresponsible as the human emperor. However, what is the connection between this and the War of the Liches? As if he saw through Lin Feng's doubts, the King of the North's golden eyes glimmered. He said, ever since the battle at the Fallen Witch Mountain Range, the sorcerer race has been unable to resist the demonic beast race's invasion. They have been holed up in the sorcerer race's territory, slowly exhausting their strength to resist the demonic beast race's invasion. They are completely suppressed by the demonic beast race, unable to move. I heard that Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was injured and went into seclusion. Lin Feng nodded his head. He was very clear about these matters. Shi Juyin temporarily assumed the position of Sorcerer Emperor. Although he was aggressive on the surface, vowing to fight the demonic beast race to the end, he was all bark and no bite. All along, he had been using sneak attacks to harass the demonic beast race. He had never fought an open battle with the demonic beast race until the King of the North's expression turned solemn, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. 3 days ago. 3 days ago. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. From what the King of the North said, it seemed like the pinnacle operation was related to the battle 3 days ago. 3 days ago, Shi Juyin launched his first real attack. The King of the North said solemnly, his white hair fluttering in the wind. In this battle, there were more than 200 Qis, astral treasures that displayed great battle prowess. Divine beasts with immortal bodies exhausted the demonic beast race's Saint Realm expert. The sorcerer race defeated the demonic beast race with less than half of their strength. Blood flowed like a river. The sorcerer race won a great victory. The shocking news cleared Lin Feng's mind. It was as if he had been enlightened. Everything was clear now. Indeed, a single Qi's battle prowess was only SOSO. However, in a battle, a large number of Qis, with their immortal bodies, could display a terrifying might. Huang Xiaolong had thought about this before, and that was why he had planned to arm the southern region. However, he hadn't expected the sorcerer race to be the first to use it. The might of this battle would leave a deep impression on the demonic beast race. So, the pinnacle operation is from the demonic beast race? Lin Feng's gaze deepened. I don't know. The King of the North said seriously, Huang Jifu's actions are secretive. He is both righteous and evil. He is extremely self-centered. Although the existence of Pinnacle is completely neutral, his neutrality is not absolute. If the demonic beast race gives him great benefits, Helping the demonic beast race investigate a piece of information is as easy as lifting a finger for pinnacle. I understand. Lin Feng nodded. Although the King of the North was not certain, his guess was not far from the truth. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Otherwise, how could extremity be so coincidental? Of all times, he just had to appear right after this battle. Everything was clear. But if he couldn't sell the qi, how could he fill the gap of 15 billion? What he lacked now wasn't the huge sum of money, but an opportunity. It could even be said that he only needed a few days. But the sorcerer race couldn't wait. They used the astral treasures on the battlefield so quickly, making the demonic beast race jealous. Just as the King of the North said, it would be difficult for the qi to appear again. The news of Qian Bujin's death and the massacre of the Beiyu auction house was like a thorn in his heart. Although he wasn't friends with Qian Bujin, he didn't kill Qian Bujin, but Qian Bujin died because of him, implicating so many innocent cultivators. The King of the North left. Although he didn't know what his goal was, he could feel his goodwill. Lin Feng sat on the chair and pondered. At this moment, he was undoubtedly standing on a cliff. There was a flower at the edge of the cliff. He could pick it with his hand, but it was extremely dangerous. He had many ways to sell the last batch of Blue Heaven stage qi, but each method was a gamble. If he won, he would get 5 billion. If he didn't win, his identity would be exposed. At that time, just as the King of the North said, fugitive. How should he choose? Lin Feng pressed the back of his head and felt a headache. Zi Yao stood by the side, her beautiful eyes flickering. She quietly accompanied him without saying a word. When she was in the kingdom of Maru, her ability might have been of some help, but now, even though she was an early-stage Saint King, Zi Yao knew very well that she was more of a burden to Lin Dego than a help. Even so, Zi Yao wasn't sad. Instead, she felt happy and blissful. Which woman didn't want her other half to be a great hero, an indomitable man? She wanted to hide in his arms and live in peace without thinking about anything. She was proud of Lin Dego. He was very conflicted. However, Lin Feng knew that he had to make a decision. Before he made a decision, there was something he had to do first. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to feel at ease. Zi Yao. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he looked at the beautiful woman in the purple dress in front of him. Compared to the immaturity and naivety in the kingdom of Maru, she now had a mature charm. She had become a truly perfect woman. She was as beautiful as a fairy. Every time he saw her, his heart would flutter. Lin Dego, Zi Yao smiled sweetly. Last time, you said that you would take me back to the kingdom of Maru. When will we set off? Lan Yu Tianqing. I wonder how everyone is doing now. I miss them so much. They are doing well, Lin Feng said with a faint smile. He looked at Zi Yao and pursed his lips. Thank you, Zi Yao. She knew. She understood. She also knew what was the best thing to do now. A true husband and wife were like this. They relied on each other, accommodated each other, and were one. They didn't need to say much to understand each other's hearts. Then I'll take it that you agree. Zi Yao blinked her eyes, looking rather playful. I'll go and tell Mother. She'll definitely be very happy. She's always wanted to go to the place where I grew up to take a look and live a peaceful life without any worries. Zi Yao likes that too. Yes, it won't be long before we can live a carefree life. Lin Feng's eyes were clear. The cultivators of the southern region, the cultivators of the entire human territory, all the people and those ordinary people, didn't think so too? As the human emperor, this was his responsibility. Really? Zi Yao smiled softly. Of course. Lin Feng didn't hesitate and nodded with a smile. Leaving wasn't necessarily escaping. Sometimes it was a kind of release, a kind of fulfillment. Lin Feng knew very well that although Zi Yao was his wife, she was also his weakness. The incident at the Z-Man Tower was still vivid in his mind, but he had only threatened her. If Ziyao died because of him, what would happen to him? It was hard to imagine, and he didn't dare to imagine. Now, sending Ziyao and Ziyao's mother to the kingdom of Meru was equivalent to letting him have no worries. He would do whatever he wanted to do, whatever he should do. Wasn't he like this in the past? As long as his goal was firm and clear, how to walk the path and how fast he walked it was another matter. Even if Ji's investigation hadn't happened, he had planned to let Ziyao return to the kingdom of Meru after this matter was over. Now it was just bringing it forward. After all, Ji's investigation had already begun. Even if he didn't do anything, he might be exposed at any time. At that time, Ziyao would be in danger. And now, he was alone. He could attack or retreat. What was there to be afraid of? Ji? Did he need to care? From the village boy of the Lin family village, he had walked all the way to the top of the pyramid of the Douling world. When had he ever been afraid? Not in the past, not now, and definitely not in the future. Ji. Lin Feng's eyes flickered, and the long-awaited battle intent boiled again. This time, he wasn't facing one person, but one of the three major forces of Heaven's spirit world. Very interesting. Chapter 1455. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. Of course, he had to sell it. Now, he was short of 3 billion shaman coins. No matter how big the risk, he had to fill it up. This matter was not only related to the Netherworld ship, but also to his first teacher and his father. Because of this, he could not retreat. However, he was at the peak of the wave. No matter how anxious he was, he would not choose this time. According to Hades' king of the north, Huang Jifu, the founder of Extremity, was one of the most powerful people in the Douling world. He was one of the few people who could pass the 9,000th floor of the path to heaven. He was probably even stronger than the three emperors. As for himself, he was at most on the same level as Hades North. It was not a good idea to fight head-on. However, this did not mean that he would retreat. Now, no matter where I want to sell it, the success rate is close to zero. Extremity's forces are spread all over the Douling world. They have eyes everywhere. There is almost no information that they can't get. Once I show up and expose my identity, the consequences will be unimaginable. The only way is to sell it secretly. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. In his mind, his thoughts were very clear. To him, since he had to walk down this path, he had to consider all aspects. He had to weigh the pros and cons. He had to see which path was the most correct, the least dangerous, or the easiest. No matter what, it was impossible for him to give up on selling it. However, even if I sell it secretly, it will be exposed sooner or later. What I have to do is to release it as soon as possible. Once I get the money, it will be another matter whether I am exposed or not. There was bound to be danger. With Extremity's involvement, it would be difficult to maintain the balance. He knew this very well. Since he had to stake everything, he had to pay a price and achieve result. In the entire Douling world, the only person who could make him release all the shaman coins quickly and collect 3 billion shaman coins was the most powerful person in the Douling world. The Shaman Emperor. The shaman tribe understood the power of shaman. The shaman tribe needed shaman the most. In the shaman realm, and even the Douling world, the shaman tribe was the richest. He could not think of any reason to reject the shaman tribe, even if he was not on good terms with the shaman tribe. There aren't many powerful people who can take out 3 billion Wu coins at once, but the Shaman Emperor is definitely one of them. As long as I can complete the deal with him, it will definitely be as quick as lightning. At that time, even if the news is leaked, or even if he finds out about me, everything will be too late. Lin Feng was very clear. However, the shamans would not allow him to take whatever he wanted. To a certain extent, the shamans were thousands of times more terrifying than Extremity. The sacred masters of the 9 great regions had gone missing, and the sorcerer Emperor Jiang had killed many people. If one wanted to provoke the sorcerer tribe, at least, he had to have enough bargaining chips to confront them. Otherwise, if he were to negotiate with the shamans alone, he would most likely suffer a double loss. If he entered, he would not be able to leave. The shamans were not kind people. All of this could be explained in 2 words: strength. He cultivated in seclusion. Lin Feng sat cross-legged at the front. The demon underworld lock emitted a faint blue light, which was extremely demonic. This was an authentic Blue Heaven class innate treasure. It was ranked as a Do Ling sovereign, and its value was more than 1,000 times that of the Blue Heaven class Qi. The difference between blue and indigo is 1 level. Just like the Qi blue class is Saint class, and indigo class is Saint class. For the demon underworld lock to be ranked as a Do Ling sovereign, it is enough to prove that it is worth it. Its true ability has probably reached the indigo class. If I can fuse with it, my strength will definitely increase by a huge margin. At that time, I will enter the negotiation with the shamans with confidence. His eyes sparkled as he looked at the demon underworld lock in front of him. Lin Feng was calm. It was obvious that the demon underworld lock was not connected to his heart. It could automatically fuse with him like the dual-pole blue flame pearl. In fact, such an opportunity was hard to come by. Most Saint class and Saint King class experts forcefully fused with Heaven class treasures. Right now, he needed to do the same. However, the effort and time required to refine the demon underworld lock, which was ranked as a Do Ling sovereign, was definitely not ordinary. The Northern Hades once mentioned that Starry Sky experts can fuse with Heaven-class treasures without any effort. And my clone, to a certain extent, is no different from a Starry Sky expert. Its body has 7 souls as one, and it can be said to be immortal in the Do Ling world. Its level has far exceeded that. Although its soul is still at the Saint King class, its physique completely meets the requirements. Using the soul to replace the soul. Lin Feng's eyes were deep. As a weapon refiner, he naturally had a thorough understanding of weapons. Back in the kingdom of Maru, he had already done a deep research on the so-called soul weapons and soul weapons. Although it had become mainstream in the Do Ling world to use the soul to control weapons, after all, 1 soul and 7 souls. To a warrior, the soul was far stronger than the soul, and the existence of consciousness was not something the soul could compare to. However, he was different. My soul is at the Starry Sky level. Even if the soul is indeed inferior to the soul, the difference in realm determines the difference between us. Before my clone becomes a true Starry Sky expert, the existence of the soul far surpasses the power of the soul. Since a Starry Sky expert can easily fuse with Heaven-class treasures with their souls, it means that the power of the Starry Sky level can suppress the Heaven-class treasure. Even if the soul is inferior to the soul at the same level, the soul is still at the Starry Sky level. Maybe I can give it a try. Lin Feng's heart trembled as he thought deeply. Now that there was an opportunity, it was enough to give it a try. It would be good if he could succeed. Even if he failed, with his Starry Sky expert physique, he would definitely not go mad and be seriously injured by a Heaven-class treasure. What? Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he took a deep breath. There was no need to worry too much. He would know after giving it a try. But, clenching the demon underworld lock with both hands, Lin Feng pursed his lips and closed his eyes slightly. The fusion of the soul and the fusion of the soul were not very different. He had once fused with a soul weapon, but now that the 7 souls had fused into one, the so-called soul weapon had long been reduced to nothing. The first step was to sense the existence of the soul. Clear and easy. Almost effortlessly, he sensed the existence of a huge energy ball in his body. It was far more substantial and huge than the human soul. The 7 bright dots formed the constellation diagram of the Ursa Major constellation. The power of the starry sky was majestic and pure. This was like a starry sky, a mini constellation. Controlling his thoughts, through his cells, meridians, skin, the soul power slowly seeped out. His body seemed transparent, and the huge energy ball formed by the 7 souls in his body connected with the demon underworld lock in the blink of an eye. It was like a bridge had been built. It was extremely fast. Long, rumble. Trembling violently, the blue light of the demon underworld lock completely bloomed. As if a living being's consciousness had awakened, a wave of energy was fused with the soul power, slowly releasing energy. Very strong. The energy of the demon underworld lock was stronger than his own soul power. But, strangely, there was no resistance or reaction. Like a docile sheep, it accepted the soul power bit by bit. That feeling was like submission. It was like a strong martial artist pledging loyalty to an emperor, even if the emperor was far weaker than the martial artist. As expected, Lin Feng was slightly moved, unable to contain his joy. It was just as he had expected. Even if the 7 souls were fused, his soul power was at the embryonic stage of the starry sky level, like a young ancient divine beast. He could still use the bloodline of the ancient divine beast to intimidate those powerful adult divine beasts. The soul power seeped in and kept invading. If the demon underworld lock resisted, it would definitely fail. Other than slowly depleting its energy, there was no other possibility of fusion. Based on this test of the demon underworld lock, even if he used all his strength, it would take at least a year to exhaust the power of the demon underworld lock. But now, in less than 15 minutes, I will be able to completely fuse with it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. In just a short period of time, the demon underworld lock in his hand had already undergone some changes. That was his soul power, a part of his body that had fused with the demon underworld lock. As the soul power slowly seeped in, the demon underworld lock slowly became his. The entire process was simple and direct. It was even easier than he had imagined. Time passed quickly. The demon underworld lock's transformation was very obvious. Its color had changed, and its aura had completely transformed. Other than the original artifact's spirit, there was an additional, absolute control. Whoosh! Light blossomed. The sky blue color was filled with the power of light. It was like the ocean, like the sky. The clean blue color turned into light and resonated with the soul energy ball in his body. It was deeply imprinted and turned into a sky blue bracelet with abundant energy. It landed on his left hand. Like an ordinary bracelet, the sky blue light gradually dimmed. It's done. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. His gaze landed on the sky blue bracelet on his left hand. It was extremely exquisite, with exquisite craftsmanship and intricate carvings. The shape of the lock was filled with a strange energy and color. There was a strange pattern on the top of the lock that looked like a skeleton or a devil. Demon underworld lock. Swish. Swish. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He could clearly sense the demon underworld lock's abilities. At this moment, he completely understood it. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he was deeply shocked by its powerful ability. Looking at this seemingly insignificant little chain, Lin Feng slowly clenched his right fist and then loosened it. He gently stroked the uneven surface of the chain with a faint smile. He was quite satisfied. No wonder the demon underworld lock was the only blue-class heavenly treasure that could enter the Do Ling Supreme ranking. Its abilities far exceeded its grade. For his doppelganger to be compatible with the demon underworld lock and master its abilities, it would be like adding wings to a tiger. In less than 10 days, the doppelganger's abilities will definitely increase by more than 50%. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. He was full of confidence. The demon underworld lock would become a powerful weapon for him. Chapter 1456. What happened to the Northern Corner auction house? Don't know, I heard it was caused by internal strife. Is that possible? It's 100% because the Northern Corner auction house rose too quickly and provoked some big shot. Who doesn't know that the Northern Corner auction house has become famous because of the astral treasure? Not only has it surpassed all the other auction houses in Yen Imperial City, it has even surpassed the Netherworld and Lulon Kingdom. Serves them right, who asked the Northern Corner auction house to be so high profile. Sigh, not only did the Northern Corner auction house disappear, even the is gone. That's right, wasn't the Northern Corner auction house supposed to auction the Blue Heaven Rankum? Now, even the Northern Corner auction house has disappeared. Someone must have snatched it away. It's been 10 days and there's no news at all. It's over. To think I sold everything I had to invest in a Blue Heaven Rankum. This is a big loss. The entire Northern Corner auction house, and even Yen Imperial City, was abuzz with discussions. The Northern Corner auction house had been massacred, and everyone had been killed. This news could be said to be extremely shocking. Even though King Yenluo Bei had ordered a thorough investigation, everyone knew there was no evidence, and nothing could be found. And the that everyone was most concerned about seemed to have evaporated into thin air, never to appear again. The place was bustling with activity, and everyone was jittery. Ancestral Magus Hall. What did you find? Shi Jiuyin sat on the Magus Emperor's seat, his eyes cold. Reporting to Magus Emperor, it's confirmed that the demonic beast race is behind this. Tianwu reported solemnly. What a good demonic beast race, I didn't expect their reaction to be so fast. It's completely different from before. Shi Jiuyin's voice was frigid, and his expression was solemn. No wonder even that old fox Di Jiang suffered a big loss. Borrowing Ji's power, they turned the tables without shedding a drop of blood. Gomang and Huda's expressions changed slightly, and their hearts sank. Both of them had experienced the battle at the Fallen Witch Mountain Range, and they had a deep understanding of the demonic beast race's strength. The current demonic beast race was no longer the demonic beast race of the past. Not only did they solve the problem of being a ball of loose sand in the past, but they also added the cunning of humans, making up for their race's lack of temperament. Thinking of the demonic beast race, the Magus and Hutu. This was not a coincidence. The power of the demon clan had indeed surpassed that of the sorcerer clan. Right now, the most troublesome thing is whether or not Ji is as rumored to have obtained a large number of Heaven Stage blue-grade Ho and sold them to the demon race. That shouldn't be the case. Otherwise, why would the Yao race still be so calm? They would have flaunted their strength to boost their morale. Tian Wu held his head high and said proudly, "In the last battle, our Magus clan defeated the demon clan. Until now, our battle achievements are still awe-inspiring. We made the demon clan restrain themselves quite a bit. Rumors cannot be trusted." Shi Jiuyin interrupted Huang Xiaolong without hesitation. Gomang nodded, his voice hoarse. Although Ji is driven by benefits, he is still a part of the celestial spirit. He will definitely not break the balance and participate in the war. Right now, the demon clan has the upper hand. Even if Ji really does collect a large number of Heaven Stage blue-level hues, he will only take them for his own use and will definitely not give them to the demon clan. Otherwise, our shaman clan will be in a worse situation, and it will also not be good news for the Heavenly Spirit clan. The shaman kings nodded in agreement. Once the cunning rabbit was dead, the hound would be cooked. Ji wasn't that stupid. However, the atmosphere in the Great Hall was still heavy. The shaman kings' faces were solemn. The shaman clan's disadvantage still existed. Despite the demon clan's defeat half a month ago, the shaman clan was still being suppressed by the demon clan. Initially, the shaman clan had gathered a large amount of shaman coins to buy a large number of Huse to increase their strength. Who would have thought that Huse disappeared in a single night, causing the shaman clan's joy to come to naught? Shi Juin's brows were deeply furrowed, deep in thought. Shaman Emperor Jiang was in seclusion, and it was difficult for Shi Juin to take over this mess. The demon clan finally had a chance. The Huse appearance gave the shaman clan hope, but in the end, the bigger the hope, the bigger the disappointment. Despicable demon clan. Tian Wu's face was twisted with anger. No, it's all because of G. Ciz hissed. Really angry. The shaman kings were furious, but they had been suppressed by the demon clan for a long time. They were flustered and exasperated, and couldn't hold it in any longer. They couldn't wait to fight the demon clan and show off their might. Shi Juin was the same. His crimson skin was a little strange, and his gloomy face was filled with inhuman anger. Although he was the temporary sorcerer emperor, if he could do better than Di Jiang, then even if Di Jiang came out, he would not be able to shake his position, and Bai had undoubtedly allowed him to see the light. But he had only just begun to test his skills, but his plan had already been declared ruined. Shi Juin's heart was filled with lofty aspirations, but it was as if he had been hit in the head with a stick. His gaze turned sharp, and he lowered his head in contemplation. The anger on his face was hidden deep in his heart, and the other shaman king's emotions were stirred up. Everyone was vexed, but right at this time, Qi, a muscular figure appeared, bearing some resemblance to Shi Juin. Personal guard, Eclipse Control. Shaman Sovereign, I have something to report. Eclipse Controller cupped his hands solemnly. Shi Juin's eyes deepened as he looked at his right-hand man. If it wasn't absolutely necessary, he wouldn't have entered the ancestral Magi Palace, much less disturb him in the presence of so many Magus kings. Compared to these peak Saint King realm experts and powerful shaman kings, Eclipse Controller was Shi Juin's true subordinate. Fellow shaman kings, today's meeting ends here. All of you are dismissed. Shi Juin waved his hand and said solemnly. The shaman kings weren't idiots. Although they were curious about Eclipse Controller, none of them were nosy and quickly retreated. In the spacious ancestral Magi Palace, 12 giant ancestral Magi statues exuded an oppressive aura. Their eyes glimmered as if they were real existences. You can speak now. Shi Juin said solemnly. It's like this, Shaman Sovereign. Eclipse Controller said seriously. There is a mysterious person who wants to make a deal with Shaman Sovereign. Make a deal with me? Shi Juin was stunned, but he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Looking at Eclipse Controller's serious expression, he asked, Is it very rare? Eclipse Controller raised his head, and a light glimmered in his hand. In a split second, Shi Juin's eyes shone brightly. His gaze focused on that flickering blue light and lifelike existence. It was none other than Bai. Blue Heaven rank Bai. He said, This is a small greeting gift for Shaman Sovereign. Eclipse Controller's voice was light, but there was a slight tremor in his voice. Small greeting gift. The Blue Heaven rank Bai that had never appeared in the Do spirit world was a super treasure that had caused a great uproar in the shaman tribe's territory. Go bring him here. Shi Juin said solemnly after a long time. Yes, Shaman Sovereign. Eclipse Controller cupped his fists and retreated. Clad in black, Lin Feng walked over calmly. His aura was concealed, and what was shrouded in the black clothes was a mask that covered his appearance. Following Eclipse Controller's lead, Huang Xiaolong's expression fluctuated as he strode forward. Huang Xiaolong had come prepared to meet Shi Juin. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. In the entire Do spirit world, there was only one person who could make a deal with him, Shaman Sovereign. He had planned this for a long time, and he had already sent Zi Yao away. Now that he was alone, there was nothing to be afraid of. Regardless of whether he advanced or retreated, There was nothing to worry about. He was clear that entering the ancestral Magus Hall this time was a feast at Hongmen, filled with danger. However, he had to give it a try. What a heavy pressure! Lin Feng's eyes glimmered. The closer he got to the ancestral Magus Hall, the more he could feel the heavy pressure, making his heart feel heavy. That was a power as strong as the heavens, the level of a true starry sky expert. It was not real, but it existed, as if it was separated by a layer of time and space, far away from heaven and earth. In front of him, he could already see the huge buildings clearly. Stone statues of Pang Ran, their eyes shining brightly. Entering deeper, Huang Xiaolong's heart trembled. The shaman tribe is indeed extraordinary to be able to stand against the demonic beast race as the leader of the three major tribes of the human race. Lin Feng thought inwardly. After staying in the Yen Imperial City for a long time and seeing the experts of the neutral races, Huang Xiaolong seemed to have forgotten about the shaman tribe. But to be able to make the heavenly spirit world neutral and dominate the Dou spirit world, there was no need to doubt the shaman tribe's strength. Shaman Emperor Jiang was the #1 expert of the Dou Ling world. If it was Shaman Emperor Jiang, I'm afraid it would be hard for me to come out. Lin Feng thought. Until now, he still remembered that the Saint Lords of the 9 major regions were summoned by Shaman Emperor Jiang, but they never returned. Although there was no evidence to prove that it was Shaman Emperor Jiang who did it, he was almost 90% sure. Shaman Emperor Jiang was a ruthless person. He would do anything to achieve his goal. However, Shaman Emperor Shi Jiuyin was different. Maybe he was more cunning and ruthless, but he was not Emperor Jiang. He did not stand at the top of the shaman tribe in the Dou Ling world. He was still a temporary replacement. Lin Feng finally stepped into the ancestral Magus Hall. A heavy pressure hit his heart, his eyes flashed as he looked around. The stone statues of the 12 ancestral magi stood tall, vivid and lifelike. They formed a huge circle around the ancestral Magus Hall. Their ferocious faces were terrifying, as if they wanted to swallow everything. Majestic. The atmosphere was majestic and grand. The ancestral Magus Hall did not have a roof. It was built in the open. It was meant to allow the 12 ancestral magi to stand tall and unrestrained. This is the center of the shaman tribe's highest authority, the ancestral Magus Hall. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He was shocked. Seeing was better than hearing. He had read many books about the ancestral Magus Hall in detail. It was rumored that the 12 ancestral Magus Hall contained the blood of the shaman tribe's ancestor, the shaman ancestor. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, it was indeed true. A heavy pressure, that power was where the previous pressure came from. If he fought here, he might not even be able to use 50% of his strength. Moreover, these ancestral Magus Hall statues seemed to be alive. Not only did they have a strong pressure, if they fought, he would not be surprised if these ancestral Magus Hall statues came to life. Phew, Lin Feng exhaled in his heart, but his expression did not change. At this time, a gush of terrifying aura slowly seeped out, pointing at him. Raising his head, he saw a powerful and majestic figure standing in the middle of the 12 ancestral Magus Hall statues with his hands clasped behind his back. Shaman Emperor Shi Jiuyin. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.